Also, two more people arrived who really enjoyed the spectacle they were treated to. It was Zhang Ling and the head of the Iron Sword Guild. A sword battle was akin to a game of chess. Each blow from the enemy is akin to a move, and the one who manages to anticipate his opponent's moves wins. The Yijin School's all-seeing sword technique is truly impressive. Fang Dongqing inquired as to what he was doing here. Chengning County isn't his property to boss around. If young Fan came here, why couldn't he do the same? He would remember well everything that happened today. In the future, when the treasure is found, he and Zhang Lin will settle accounts for everything. After that, she was gone. What was expected of the celestial maiden of Yijiang? After all, she was using all her power right now. All Jianghu people know that the all-seeing sword technique is only the basic technique of the school. The main deadly weapons of her school are the four great swordsmanship techniques, namely the life, death, illusion, and extermination techniques. The man wondered which of the four techniques had been passed down to her. But doesn't he think it's a little inappropriate to find out about her, given their current relationship? He recognized the girl's rightness. In that case, he would not dare to bother her anymore with his inquiries. He also mentioned that if Madame Sai suddenly thought of making an alliance, she could approach him at any time. They also left. Zhang Lin was clearly not the kind of person who would come here for the sake of curiosity. After all, today's agenda did not concern him in any way. She apologized for getting him involved in trouble. Fang Dongting had obviously come here because of her, but Madame is too worried about it. She was able to handle it herself, and besides, Su Xin has already taken payment for his help. Therefore, he is not going to back down in such matters. As far as their cases are concerned, nothing new has been learned so far. She noticed that the Su faction leader was too impatient. Even if the treasure hunt turned out to be a failure, it wouldn't upset her or Yi Jian much. The boy wondered what the mistress was talking about. Du Yansheng's treasures are indeed tempting, but their location and even existence are vague. Her school had found one of the 5 keys over a decade ago. At one time, they had tried to find this treasure but never achieved anything. But according to his information, the other groups have only recently found their keys, while they found their key more than a decade ago. The thought of the Yijin School popped into his head, but then a subordinate arrived, announcing that the chief warden of the 12th Eastern Department, Te Wu King, wished to meet with him. Su Xin asked where Mr. Te was now. The man replied that he was waiting outside the door. I guess it's not very comfortable being sandwiched between representatives of great schools and bands. Su Xin acknowledged Mr. T's correctness. It feels like he's between a hammer and an anvil. These people are not inferior in power or influence. All he can do is put his head down and wait. Te Wu King thought that he would never let his head go. In Changning County, Su Xin had always acted violently and decisively. The guy confirmed that he would never bow down to anyone if Te Wu King leads the way. However, he doesn't have much of a choice right now. He doesn't have to worry about that scum in Fang Dongting. Soon, Su Xin will definitely surpass him. Be that as it may, he is a young talent that is on the human roster. Perhaps Mr. T shouldn't praise the main character so much, and belittle him. Even though Fang Dongting is on this list, it does not change the fact that he is scum. If it wasn't for his special position in the Qingcheng school, he would have never been able to make it to the human list. But the human list ranks people by their combat merit. If it's about the first 30 people, it is. However, with the people that follow, it doesn't have to be. Every great group strives to save face. When some of them see the Jianghu master disciples of other groups engaging in distinct superiority, they simply cannot accept it. Now I can see what this was all about. No wonder Zijian seemed much stronger than Fang Dongting in that skirmish. That time, his rank had just caused Su Xin to have doubts. But it's time to stop throwing around unnecessary words. Te Wu King came here to find out something. Namely, how long ago the Yijin School got their hands on one of the 5 keys, and what their position on the treasure is. The guy replied that it happened more than 10 years ago. Te Wu King ordered this conversation to be kept secret, and for the guy to keep looking for clues. Mr. T doesn't have to worry about that. The Guild of the 3 Elites. A kunai flew toward him. Luckily, it hit the wall. Zhang Qingfang took the kunai in his hands and unfolded it into the scroll that was with him. There was information about Su Xin. The longer he listens to the Honorable Ming, the more he doubts his sanity. For some reason, he's so wary of some young guy. A man overheard their conversation. He shook this message, and his hand began to shake. After which the man left. He could laugh all he wanted, but Su Xin was truly a sad man. In just 1 year, he was able to get from the bottom of the faction to his current position. In addition, his former uncle mentor Chen Zhao also wards his hand. Ruan Mingyu thought that it must be a joke that he had killed an early heaven warrior, but it is the truth. All the faction and guild heads were present at that moment. Su Xin used the true chi release, and a moment later, his mentor uncle was killed. Does Meng San really think that just by releasing true ki, one could kill an early heaven warrior so easily? Zhang Yuandong said to stop all this. They only need Mr. Meng's help in capturing the treasure. Su Xin's house. An additional quest. Enemy of the Truth has been activated. It is necessary to defeat the followers of the true path. As a reward, he manages to antagonist points, and the total reward will depend on the strength of those killed. The reward is credited for each killed. Limit of 1,000 antagonist points. Dasha can tell by the title of the assignment that he is indeed being forced to become a villain. He accepted the assignment. Su Xin was walking down the street at night. There was someone coming toward him. Su Xin immediately turned around and asked who was here. He had already been attacked by a man who wanted him dead. Su Xin took his punch, retaliating with his own fist. He learned that this killer was on the perfect later heaven. Su Xin asked which group had sent him. The assassin recoiled. Su Xin managed to survive today, but he would get to him in the future. He left quickly. The guy was curious as to who he was after all. It was quite obvious that his cultivation level was not high, but his qigong technique was perfected. Then he heard something was wrong. When he arrived at the location, he noticed the very man who had attacked him. In the distance, Mr. Meng was already there, and also his men. The congregation immediately inquired what Su Xin was doing here. The guy explained that the Golden Moon Quarter was his territory, so it was not at all unusual for him to be walking around here. He was very interested in what the Three Elites Guild had forgotten in the Eagle faction's territory late at night. When the cloth was removed to see the killer's face, they recognized Zhang Qingfan. Ruan Mingyu told his brother that it was Zhang Qingfang, and he was no longer breathing. Zhang Yuandong was angry and was ready to attack us Su Xin. He used the technique of 9 swallow punches. Su Xin took this blow with his sword. His weapon began to glow. This caused the attacker to throw his sword from his hands. The man realized that this was a top-of-the-line weapon. Su Xin replied that he did not kill the man, and also asked who they were in general. The man replied that they were the heirs of the 3 great houses from Xiangnan. Jiang Yuandong and Ruan Mingyue were in front of him. On the ground now lay Zhang Qingfang, who had come along with them. And Su Xin was brave enough to kill the heir of one of the 3 great houses. It was clear what was going on. Now he had an explanation for all the weirdness. It became clear to him that someone was setting him up. Ruan Mingyu asked why he was smirking. He didn't think that because he had gained dominance over a piece of land, he could now look down on Xiangnan's warriors. But he already said he didn't kill the man. He was also attacked, and then he heard the noise and came here. The protagonist is caught red-handed, and he dares to evade responsibility. He should be arrested. Zhang Yuandong stopped them. Since the guy himself says so, we should examine the corpse first. But Ruan Mingyu has already done it. Zhang Qingfang was killed with a single sword stroke, and nothing more can be found out. But they are deeply mistaken. Jiang Lin arrived. He explained that even though there was only one wound, one could tell a lot from it. Zhang Yuandong asked the head of Zhang Hall how he found himself here. The man explained that the Iron Sword Guild didn't have many people, and they had to work around the clock to find the threads to the treasure. Therefore, he can't just sit idle. This Jianghu generation is still so ignorant in some matters. In front of them lay a late heaven warrior who had mastered the Qigong technique to perfection. He was slain with a single sword strike to the throat. Only a person who possessed the strength of an early heaven warrior could successfully launch an attack on a warrior with such strength, or equal in strength to this slain man in the event that the villain was able to take him by surprise. But really, none of that matters. Ruan Mingyu asked why on earth the man felt that way. It's pretty simple. The man pointed at his sword. Since Zhang Qingfang died with his sword in his hand, it meant that he was not taken by surprise. If the early heaven warrior had made a surprise attack, this man would not even have had time to take out his sword. And judging from the wound, the assassin's sword was unusually shaped and extremely sharp. Most importantly, the killer held the sword in his left hand. Su Xin was alarmed by such 2 hasty conclusions. Still, the question remained as to how Hall Head Jiang was also able to determine in which hand the assassin held his sword. The man called them just a bunch of uncouth kids. Even his subordinates can see such obvious details. A wound inflicted by a left-handed person comes from one angle, and if right-handed, from the exact opposite angle. It was pretty sad that the younger generation of great bands don't even know such basic things. As far as Zhang Yuandong knows, in the entire Chengning district, Su Xin is the only one who is fluent with a sword in his left hand. The guy only laughed from all of this. Hall head Jiang speaks so convincingly that Su Xin even believed that he had killed Zhang Qingfan himself. The guy also wondered if everyone had been possessed by a Conan. Conan has been a mystical sleuth in 6 ministries. However, his zeal in this case only shows that he is the killer, and that is an undeniable fact. He said it all pretty well. Fong Dongting and Gong Qifeng arrived. He had been caught red-handed, and it couldn't even be denied anymore. But sometimes what appears before their eyes is not the truth. Zheqian explained that jumping to conclusions too hastily wouldn't do anyone any good. Next to her was Li Huai, as well as the people of the Eagle faction. Gong Shifeng assumed that Su Xin had decided to take out all the witnesses. Did he really think that his subordinates would be enough to deal with the early Sky Masters present here? It was time for guild leader Gong to stop labeling him with new labels. Until now, he had never met young Master Zhang of the great house of Xiangnan province. So why kill him? Since he's not a murderer, there's no reason for him to eliminate witnesses. But the motive for this is quite simple. Just like Zhang Lin said before, the corpse can tell them everything. This time, however, he will take on the case himself. Here's another piece of evidence. But the rolled-up paper said that at the appointed time, Su Xin would be waiting for him Golden Moon Quarter on Linhua Street, and that the 5th key was in his possession. If he is not mistaken, this is the handwriting of the Su faction leader. Now it's clear why Zhang Qingfang is here. The main question now is whether he used this information about the key as a bluff, or if he really has the 5th key. And for what purpose did he involve the others here? Zhang Lin might seem like he was acting in the general interest and just sticking to the rules. But in reality, his every move was thought out and this whole situation was planned. With just a couple of phrases, he had made him a prime target in the eyes of the others. The boy wondered what purpose he was pursuing. Since they were talking about details, if Xiejian is not mistaken, this leaf is made of a special kind of bamboo that grows in the Haizhu Mountains, known as green bamboo. Green bamboo paper is produced in the Central Plains as this variety cannot tolerate high temperatures. In places with hot and humid climates such as Xiangnan province, this variety is rarely found. Everyone knows that the head of the Su faction is in charge of foreign trade in Changning County. Do they really think that Su Xin would leave such an obvious evidence against himself if he was a murderer? The girl's words definitely made sense. If what he had heard about Su Xing before, then he really wouldn't allow such a ridiculous gaffe. Perhaps he did it on purpose to avert suspicion. The thing is, it really doesn't prove anything. But the injury tells them everything they need to know, and there's nothing they can do about it. Faction head Su's left-handed fast sword style is known throughout Chongning County. Guild leader Meng must agree with him. Of course, they all had the chance to see Su Xin's fighting style in action. And what makes them think that only the left hand can do that kind of wound in the first place? He asked for permission from the guild head of the Gong Guild to clearly demonstrate everything to them. There are countless astounding techniques in this world. He can't wait to show how to make a similar wound once more. Especially how easy it is to pull off. Su Xin seemed to want to attack the Gong Guild head, but his sword passed by Gong Qingfeng. Su Xin startled his subordinate. Su Xin had just attacked him, and after something like this, he was still going to say that he wasn't going to take out witnesses. It was noticeable how guild leader Gong forcibly panicked. A man of his status shouldn't lose his head over such a small matter. Now he invited the others to look at the dead man's wound. Obviously, the Su faction leader had just used his right hand, and it turned out that the trajectory of the wound was the same as Zhang Qingfen's wound. Now let them listen carefully. If they can't handle something, it doesn't mean that the others can't either. Su Xin is nothing more than a little person who hasn't even reached the early heaven level. If someone like him was able to pull off a trick like this, it means that the rest of the stronger people can do it as well. It's too rash to draw definitive conclusions based on the type of wound alone. Now knowing that he is not the killer, what are they even still doing here? Do they really expect Su Xin to call them for a late-night snack? Even though he was able to exonerate himself today, that doesn't mean he's cleared of all suspicion. Zhang Yuandong replied that they should go too. Ruan Mingyu didn't want to put up with it. After all, the assassin was still walking around outside. Since the head of Su's faction had confirmed his non-involvement, they shouldn't continue to trouble him. The man was hoping to see a great sight tonight. He replied that they should do what they wanted, and he was getting out of here. Xie Qian asked what had even happened here, and how he had stumbled upon Zhang Qingfan's body. It was obvious that someone wanted to frame him. The problem is that he doesn't understand his enemy's true motives at all. In Chongning County, Meng Zhang hates him the most. However, He does not possess the level of strength to be able to kill Zhang Qingfan with a single blow. If the provocateur's goal was the treasure, then it would be better for him to attack Su Xin to get his hands on one of the keys. So what was the point of framing him? Who is the head of a small faction? He ordered Li Huan to pass the message to Huang Bingcheng. Have him find out who Zhang Qingfang had been in contact with that day. It was especially important to find out who was the last person you saw him alive. After a while, Huang Bingcheng finished making inquiries. As it turned out, the last person to see Zhang Qingfan that day was a person from the Eagle faction. Soon after, each of them went their separate ways. This enemy in the shadows does not shy away from any methods. Since Su Xin was able to prove his own swords were not involved, an investigation will now begin, and others will also be able to find out about this witness. As for that letter supposedly from him, there was nothing he could say. He decided to go to interrogate this man. If he had anything to do with this case, they needed to find out who was behind it. The girl wanted to go with them too. Today's event is too suspicious, and so she too wants to find out who is behind it all in the end. But it was no good, for that man was already dead. He was shocked by this news. This witness was lying on the table along with a bowl of some kind of liquid. Li Huai sniffed the liquid. He replied that it was poison. Whoever thought this through even took care to eliminate the witness in such a clean way. Su Xin ordered to send people to find out everything about this person, but it was already done. Huan just didn't have time to pass it on to the head of the faction. This witness was called Du Jing. He was a member of the Eagle faction battle hall. His father was a distant relative of Du Yuancheng. At one time, he had accompanied Du Yuancheng and was responsible for controlling the warriors' weapons and equipment. It seems that the crux of recent events is beginning to become clear. Another subordinate has arrived. He reported that a secret passage had been discovered in the backyard of Du Jing's dwelling. They need to go see it. But it's even a little surprising that such a healthy secret passage hasn't been discovered by anyone yet. Huang would also never have thought that there was such a secret passageway within the Eagle faction's territory. If the information from Du Jingyi was reliable, then it was very likely that this was the location of Du Yuancheng's treasure. However, Du Jing, who is directly related to Du Yuancheng, is already dead. It is likely that the person behind the scenes has gotten rid of him as a rush that has outlived its usefulness. It is possible that this person behind the scenes is also directly related to Du Yuancheng. There were many thoughts about who this person even was, and whether it was possible that this person was someone from Chongning County. This place is so spacious that it can hold over 1,000 people. This room was indeed too huge. The girl inquired of them where they were now. If he remembered correctly, the Changde neighborhood was now above them. Huan told the boss to take a quick peek at it. As it turned out, someone had already inserted one of the 5 keys. How much effort had been spent searching for this place, and finally, it had found itself. He never would have guessed that this secret room had been under their feet the whole time. Fang Dongting inquired what Su Xin was thinking. It was clear now that they were following him. Although faction leader Su was able to temporarily exonerate himself, he was still the prime suspect. That was why the man suggested that everyone follow him this night and find out what he was up to. Who would have thought that the head of Su's faction would give them such a classy gift? But it wasn't clear how they were able to sneak in here, and what had become of the Eagle faction's men who were guarding the entrance. Since those insolent scum had no tact, he immediately sent them to the other world. Such words and his actions have caused others to spring into action, but Su Xin stopped them. Su Xin seems to have a knack for showing tact. Right now, the treasure is only one step in front of them. If they all quarrel now, none of them will be able to get what they want. But before they go through that door, he proposes to make an agreement. All the group leaders of Chongning County will be able to enter, but their men will stay outside. All this is to make a fair division and avoid any devious antics. The man agreed to those terms. Gong Qingfeng recognized this thought as reasonable and agreed as well. Huang wanted to oppose in some way, but for Su Xin, it was not a problem, so he told his men to wait outside. The Eagle Caucus also agrees to these terms. Zhonglin told everyone to follow his movements. They should insert their keys in one of those holes. He inserted his key. Others also followed suit. Zheqian inserted her key as well. And finally, the 5 keys were in place. A silver door appeared in front of them. They decided to go ahead. They can't be lagging behind others either. It felt like everything was going too smoothly. Something was clearly wrong here, but it was hard to figure out what it was. The girl suggested that since they were here too, they should go. The boy agreed with her. They had already traveled some distance, but there was no treasure at all. He who has seen little is much surprised. Has he never seen a formation like this before? Martial arts cultivators who have reached the heavenly limit are able to utilize earthly and heavenly power to create such a formation. So what is there to be surprised about? Even though the Du Union's leader had hidden his treasure here, there were traps set up for security purposes that could easily destroy it. As for the formations, they can delay the invasion of outsiders and protect the treasures as well. Of course he knows about formations. He's just a little on edge right now, that's all. But it wasn't like that at all. Zhonglin is behind this whole thing. This whole treasure hunt was carefully prepared from the beginning. He's the one who inserted the fifth key that was originally in the lock. He's also the one who killed Zhang Qingfang. It was worth admitting that Su Xin was really smart to have thought of all this. He confirmed that the guy was right. Unfortunately, there's no reward for that. Ruan Mingyu couldn't even think that it was Jiang Ling who had killed Zhang Qingfan. Does he really think that his year cycle hall is so strong that it will be able to resist the three great houses of Shangnan? But this case has nothing to do with the year cycle group. The head of the Zhang Hall had never been this simple. He was never an ordinary year cycle hall head. The same goes for guild head Gong Qingfeng. He wasn't simply the head of one of the guilds in Changning County either. Now we know who was lurking in the dark. He could have guessed someone was plotting, except he didn't think he was behind it. The guy wondered who these two were. There was no point in them hiding now. Gong Qingfeng recognizes the same Su Xin. In all of Changning's guilds and factions, there are only mediocrities. But he was the only one who was able to advance this far on this piece of land. It was a pity that once he got into this mess, his fate was sealed. As it turned out, Zhang Lin was taken into custody by Du Yuansheng when he was a child. He became his 93rd adopted son. Since he was very sick when he was young, he was sent to the year cycle group of the three great healers for treatment. It took quite a long time to heal him, so he managed to avoid the fate of a ferocious lion. Du Yuansheng had countless disciples in the past. Gong Qingfeng's father was precisely one of them. Fortunately, in terms of strength, his father was the weakest, and that was why he was able to escape the so-called purge that the imperial court had arranged. It appears that the imperial court is behind Du Yuansheng's death. Do they really think it will be as easy for them to get away with it now? The treasure is also claimed by the Qingcheng and Yijiang sword school members who are here now. He's not even afraid to die. Half of this Zhou dynasty's territory is absolutely due to his adoptive father. He offered these lands to Ji Haodian on a platter. In the end, the Ji family forgot about his kindness, and together with a few traitors from the Sangxian Martial Alliance began to plot against him, which led to the collapse of Sangxian. And now that Ji Haodian had become old and ignorant, it was time to reclaim what was rightfully theirs. This sounds like the plot of some melodrama. Are all authors really that negligent these days? He became a little curious. Ever since he was born, he had lived in Chongning County. Those who came to visit them would have no way of guessing that he was acting at one with mentor Uncle Jiang, since what happened was that he had fallen under Su Xin's suspicion. During the recent events, his actions did not match his usual style of behavior. In his eyes, guild leader Gong is a young man with a calculating and lively mind. His methods are cruel, and his true motives are hidden from everyone. After all, he was the one who provoked Fang Dongting to come to Su Xin and cause trouble. And when Su Xin got into trouble, Gong Qingfeng was the first one to start throwing stones at him. If Meng Zhang had done this, he wouldn't have even a shred of doubt. However, that person was him. Gong Qingfeng was very active in a matter that, at first glance, would not benefit him at all. As for the head of Jiang Hall, it was much simpler. On the one hand, he was trying to pit the Yijian and Qingcheng schools against each other. And on the other hand, when the guy fell under suspicion of murder, he made it look like he appeared there by chance. If you think logically and organize all the known facts, everything becomes clear, especially for Su Xin, who is directly involved in all of this. All of his actions, one after another, convinced Su Xin that he was aiming to wreak havoc. Or is it still the same coincidence? The protagonist has really thought things through thoroughly. But Sin Lin wonders how he could have guessed the rest. They originally had not 2 keys in their hands, but as many as 3 or even 4 keys. He was even able to guess to this point. Su Xin is indeed an unusual person. The guy was right, and there were indeed 4 keys in their hands. Over the past years, he had used his own strength and influence to find these 4 keys. However, the last key was in the hands of the Yijian school, and was out of his reach. That was why they had carried out this plan. Qingcheng school has really found its key only recently. He intentionally gave one of the keys into the hands of Qingcheng school, and provoked an incident between them and Yijian school. His goal was to pit them against each other. This he could still understand. But what was the point of dragging the three great houses from Xiangnan into all this? What good were they to him besides using them to frame Su Xin? Indeed, why did he get them into this whole mess? And why did he kill Zhang Qifang? Did he really think that he had nothing to do with it? Originally, it was the three great houses that conspired with the imperial court and ruined his adoptive father. Even if it was true, did they really still think the two of them could do anything to them? He has quite enough strength to crush such pathetic insects. He had the Shengong of the early sky, and now the secret room mechanism has been triggered. We'll be able to open the exit in 2 hours. None of them are leaving alive tonight. So it turns out there are 2 early sky warriors against them. But this fight is only between the 2 of them. Neither he nor the Iron Sword Guild wants to be involved. If he lets him go, he will keep what just happened a secret. They guarantee to keep their mouths shut. As everyone has known for a long time in this world, there is only one way to get a man to keep his mouth shut. Either the fish will die or the net will break. Does he really think they will just sit there and wait to die? If he were them, he wouldn't be so confident that they could survive. Cuts appeared on their necks. 2 heirs from the 3 great houses died. As it turned out, he used the secret sword art of a Bohai group that existed in the past. She has a rather commendable observation. Although he doesn't possess the 9 strikes technique of the ferocious lion that belonged to his foster father, this secret art is enough to deal with them. Here and now, their blood will serve as a sacrifice to revitalize the Sangxiang Martial Alliance and its banner. As expected, the Celestial Maiden didn't let him hit. After all, she is the 78th on the human list. She is truly worthy of her rank. Zhonglin ordered Qing Feng to deal with those scum first, and he would take care of Xie Jian. The man began to get into his fighting style. He readjusted his swords, which flew at them. Su Xin was able to dodge it. Although Gong Qing Feng and Fang Dongting are both at the early sky level, it is obvious that Qing Feng's Qigong is an order of magnitude stronger. Meng Zheng used the great split palm. The man, on the other hand, used a shapeless blade. But it was useless. Fan Dunton watched them lose. Gong Qing Feng used the rain of blades to attack him. The man shouted for Wu Qi to block him. Another man appeared in front of him. Wu Qi advised the young master to find a hiding place. As soon as he can get out, he'll bring back up right away. He ran away. That bastard decided to make cannon fodder out of him. Su Xin regrets it, but has to leave them. Tsu wondered if he really wanted to leave. Unfortunately, he can't let the guy disturb the young master. He apparently doesn't understand the situation he's in. Apparently, that young master left his subordinate here to die, and he's going to sacrifice himself for that master. So he's gonna drag the kid along with him. But don't blame him for that. If it wasn't for young master, he would have died in some backwoods long ago. He knows very well that he is no match for Gong Qing Feng. All they can do is team up and delay him to buy young master time. But Su Xin has no intention of following this plan. Since this crazy fanatic is so eager to die, he's going to help him do it. The guy used the dragon elephant technique. Crushing palm. His attack traveled across the man's flesh. This attack threw the man back into the wall. Gong Qing Feng watched this with a chuckle and even clapped. Su Xin is truly ruthless. This is what one would expect from him. If they could revive the Sangxiang Martial Alliance again, they would need people like him. The guy asked if he decided to join this union if he would let him go. But of course, he wouldn't do that. The man was just complimenting him. One way or another, he's not going anywhere from here today. The guy bought some item from the system store. If that's the case, then Su Xin himself wouldn't mind sending that bastard to see the dead. Gong Qing Feng called the guy a cocky brat. He can call a guy whatever he wants to call himself. But even that wouldn't help him. A golden lotus appeared in his hand. This was one of the 72 great Shaolin techniques, the divine flower. How could he even master this forgotten technique? Plucking a flower and smiling, I became a Buddha. There is no sin, there is no punishment. All living things are pure, all around is vanity. He put his palms together. It was as if the Buddha himself had appeared in front of him, who sent a devastating attack on him. He lost that fight. Su Xin's legs were no longer holding him up either. This technique used up even more energy than the infernal strike. If that trump card was not enough, death would surely await him. After all, the hardest currency in this world is his own strength. It seems that Zhang Ling is no less powerful than Gu Qingfeng, and possibly much stronger. He also doesn't know where Zhejian is now and how she is doing. Her survival now depends entirely on herself. The girl must win. It was noticeable that this fight wasn't an easy one for her either. She definitely deserves to carry the title of Heavenly Maiden. Yi Jiang, her prowess is not inferior to the strength of great husbands. It's such a shame she'll just have to die here today. But the girl wouldn't be so sure of that. She remembered that the man had asked which of the 4 great techniques of the Yijian school she possessed. She listed again that there were life, death, illusion, and annihilation techniques. He's about to find out all about it himself. She had mastered the most powerful of the 4 techniques, namely, the extermination technique. She used the blade of 9 disasters. When the 9 scourges are released, not a single blade of grass will revive again. This is what extermination means in the name of this technique. This technique began to erase him. Meanwhile, the guy was already looking for the girl. In this labyrinth, it's impossible to navigate. He must find Xiejian as soon as possible. But all he can hope for now is luck. He went into some kind of room. There were 4 unknown doors in front of him. The man who appeared also didn't expect that Du Yuansheng's ferocious lion treasure really existed. It was Fang Dongting. He was surprised that Suxin was not dead, and he also inquired about Wu Qi. He replied that Wu Qi was dead, and so was Gong Qingfeng. It was a good thing that Gong Qingfeng had died. Jiang Ling went after Xiejian, so one of them would be here soon. One way or another, his subordinate died saving his dear lord. Doesn't he care one bit? The man explained that he was just one of the Fang clan's chain dogs. So what kind of experiences are there to talk about? Well, as for the guy, Suxin saw something he shouldn't have seen. Suxin wondered if he was talking about treasures. Their powerful opponent Jiang Ling is still out there somewhere, and he wants them to start slaying each other now. Mr. Fan is rushing things too fast. Considering that Jiang Ling was currently fighting with the girl, it wouldn't be long before he got here. There is a person outside who has been secretly accompanying him. If he finds that his master has been gone for a long time, he will surely notify Preceptor Fang Dongting and his disciples. The time will come, and the Qingcheng school will send all its forces from Xiangnan province. Thus, all the treasures would become theirs. That's why everyone who knows the location of the treasure must die, including his Eagle faction. Now that guy knows that Qingcheng school didn't just send him this scum. For better or worse, his school is one of the 5 great sword schools. News of the treasure and the fact that they possess one of the 5 keys is bound to spread. No one will believe it's a coincidence. To avoid unnecessary trouble, all they have to do is come here first. He seems to have so underestimated the power of temptation that great groups have for this treasure. He still doesn't know where he is with the girl right now, or if she is even alive. The true Kui in his body is only recovering right now. If he is going to cross blades with Fang Dongting, he needs to stall for time. It was quite obvious that the guy was scared right now. If he had accepted Fang Dongting's offer instead of helping Xiejian, maybe he would have even kept Suxin alive. The guy wondered, and what he wanted from him. Does he really want the protagonist to fall to his knees and beg for mercy? He realizes that his opponent can't let him live. After all, he needs to keep a secret, and only the dead can keep secrets. This kind of sober thinking in this situation is astounding. Even he's a little impressed. However, Suxin was too naive if he thought that he would be able to stall for time this way. Were his actions really that obvious? It's time to accept your destiny. He was able to somehow use his sword to block that blow. But Fang Dongting's power is too astounding. He didn't use the sword path technique, Exile. That technique did get him a little sick of it after all, even if he dodged it. His true chi still hasn't recovered. If this continued, there was little chance of getting out of this mess. Well, that won't do. The man wondered if he could handle that kind of power. He would see how he could dodge it. The man used the water and fire technique, a flurry. Is this really the end? And now he had the perfect chance. He didn't realize what had just happened. It was as if the attack had stopped. Time seems to have slowed down, and then it saw a gap. He immediately decided to take the chance given to him. Suxin was able to use his sword to break this attack. After which, he crossed his sword together with Fang Dongting's sword. The men didn't understand how Suxin knew the Qingcheng school's water and fire techniques, as well as how he was able to trace the flow of qi. The guy has no idea what streams he was talking about. He was channeled by his own sword. Fang Dongting realized that this was the sword aspiration. How could he suddenly realize the sword intent so suddenly? How could some ragamuffin from nowhere be worthy of such a blessing? Looks like the main character got something very worthwhile. He attacked Fang Dongting. The man used the sword path technique, Thunderclap. Suxin engaged the spiritual chaos fingers, 24 periods. This attack pierced through Fang Dongting's body. The man was about to say something, but he didn't have time to do it. Suxin slit his throat. Didn't he say that pure strength didn't solve everything? The system congratulated him for destroying the true path warrior Fang Dongting. Part of the secondary task had been completed, and he was rewarded with 200 antagonist points. Since the system only gave him 200 points for the early Sky Warrior, it meant that he had to kill 5 people to get 1,000 points. And that guess was correct, because the system confirmed it. It turns out that every early Sky Warrior has a strength at least equal to Fang Dongting. He doesn't think that he will be able to complete this minor task now. Since Su Xin had killed this man, the Qingqing Sword School wouldn't just let go of him. Even if he could get out of here alive, staying in Changning County would be extremely risky for him. Cleaning up the place a bit might buy him some time to escape. That's all he has to do now. But surprisingly, one person you left alive. He noticed the head of Su's faction. The man asked if he was okay and what had become of Gong Qing Feng. Su Xin replied that he was dead. Fang Dongting and his escort Wu Qi were both early heaven warriors. Although they both had to sacrifice their lives in the end, they were still able to defeat Gong Qing Feng. Then I'm glad it's all over. But we can't forget that Zhang Lin is still around. If he's alive, they'll both be in trouble. Anyway, it's time for them to head for the exit and wait for the Tom. If Che Jian managed to delay Zhang Lin for 2 hours, or if he got lost in this darkness, they would at least have a tiny bit of hope. He Tian grabbed the outstretched hand to get up. As it turned out, Guild Head Meng was still breathing. The Iron Sword Guild head inquired if the guy would leave him here. Surprisingly, Su Xin decided to take it with him. The humanity of the head of the Su faction is astounding. In the past, Meng Zhang tried to use all different ways to get to him. And now, contrary to expectations, Su Xin wants to help him. But if he didn't need witnesses who could confirm Jiqian Qingfeng's true strength, he wouldn't even flaunt a finger to save them. They heard someone coming. It was Xie Jian. Both the girl and the guy were surprised they were alive. The guy explained that Fang Dongting and his escort Wu Qi had found a common death together with Zhang Lin. He was the only one who managed to stay alive. The girl replied that Zhang Lin was also dead. Therefore, it was worth it to get out of here. Considering how much time had passed, the door should already open soon. But before they leave here, Su Xin would like her to take the 5 keys to the treasury for herself. The girl didn't understand what he was talking about. Today, he had to painfully realize the real strength of his faction. If they started sharing treasures in front of all the great groups now, it wouldn't be long before the Eagle faction would be wiped off the face of the earth. Instead of accepting such a scenario, it would be better if he did Miss Xie Jian such a trifling favor. Then the girl will accept this gesture of courtesy from the Su faction head with great gratitude. 2 hours have already passed. Li Huai and Huang Bingcheng were standing outside. Huan was beginning to suspect that something had happened there, since their boss had taken so long to return. But you should have faith in Su Xin. He's definitely okay. Finally, Su Xin and Xie Jian, who was helping him walk, came out of the secret passage. Huan immediately wondered if the boss was okay and what had happened there. He also wondered where the others had gone. The guy replied that he was fine and they would talk about it a little later after they got back. He did not expect that Gong Qingfeng and Jiang Ling from the Year Cycle group were the underdogs of the ferocious lion Du Yuansheng. And since Gong Qingfeng was now dead, the Divine Wind Guild was left without its leader. It might be time to take over the Divine Wind Guild's lands. But the boy replied that this was not the right time for such thoughts. If they couldn't deal with the people from Qingcheng School, he would never be able to sleep peacefully in Chongning County again. But he had already been invaded by other people. It happened too fast. These uninvited guests have entered it. The man pointed his finger and told brother mentor Ho Ming that this was Su Xin. Earlier, they had traveled together with the young master and now no one could find him. Hao Ming asked where their disciple had disappeared to. If he dared to lie, he would immediately drown in the blood of Chongning County. If anything happens, they are ready to drown the whole county in blood. Such actions should not be done by warriors of the true path. Senior Apprentice Ho from Qingcheng High School is too imposing a person. The girl explained that they were not Fang Dongting's babysitters, and they would not be responsible for whether he lived or died. The man was about to deliver the sword, but he was stopped. He recognized the Yijin school student. He didn't even have such a thought. They were only worried about the safety of their school's students. They should know that Fang Dongting is the only son of their elder Fang Rui. He is also known as the Blue Sword of Destruction. If something really happened to the young master, it could end badly for everyone present. Su Xinya is really a pity. The others immediately began to guess the meaning of his words. As a second-generation follower of Du Yuansheng, Gong Qingfeng was incredibly strong. Mr. Fang, along with his escort, fought him with courage, not sparing their lives. In the end, all 3 people died. So, according to him, it was originally Fang Dongting and Wu Qi who crossed blades with Gong Qingfeng. But besides them, including Su Xin, There were also representatives of the three groups of Changning County. The man inquired as to the whereabouts of the other two leaders. Sushin said they were seriously injured and are now recovering. Haoming ordered his subordinate to send people to the heads of those guilds to question them, and he should also be sure to interview them individually. Haoming asked if in addition to their disciple's corpse, they should also find Wu Qi's body as well. Sushin confirmed the truth of his words. They will find their bodies in the dungeon. That was why the man asked the Su faction head to take them to the scene. It would also be a good idea for him to help remove the student's body from there. This man is determined. The success of his escape will depend on Sushin's ability to mess with his head for a while. But that won't be a problem, because she has all the keys now. She'll take him there. They returned to the scene. A subordinate arrived at Haoming's place. He explained that according to the testimony of the guild leader's inspiration, what Sushin said was true. Furthermore, based on their words, they couldn't even repel a single attack from Gong Qingfeng. After that attack, they could no longer continue fighting. Perhaps his strength was even much higher than what Sushin described. Haoming now realized how it was. They also found the bodies. Based on Fang Dongting's injuries and the inspection of the scene, everything the Su faction leader said was true. Although everything seems obvious, given Fang Dongting's character, he finds it hard to believe that he would fight anyone to the last man. With that in mind, the man felt that he needed to think it over again. Haoming ordered all the bodies to be brought to him. They would wait for Master Wu and decide what to do next. Eagle Caucus. Huang didn't expect that the boss was going to leave Changning County. The guy explained that he had killed Fang Dongting. Only now will he be able to do it. And when the masters of the Qingcheng school arrive here, they will easily uncover his deception. But then what would become of the Eagle faction if their boss left? And also, what will become of his little sister, Shin'er? Sushin explained that right now the Eagle faction has already taken the right path. If its course of development does not change, it will still be one of the largest factions in Changning County. As for his sister, he had already entrusted her to the protection of Lady Shijian and the Yijian school. She would help Shin'er develop her talent, and under the protection of the school, no one would dare to harm her. Honored Huang's strength is quite small. Therefore, after he leaves the Eagle faction, Li Huai will take over as the head of the faction. But in fact, Huang Bingcheng will be responsible for all the affairs of the faction. He also knew that it was too late for Li Qing to learn martial arts due to his age. Nevertheless, he possesses talents from the sky. They should appoint this man as the deputy of the battle hall. Sushin was confident that he and Li Huai would be a worthy pillar to support the faction's influence in Changning County. The man said that the boss shouldn't worry about anything. As long as Li Huai is alive, this oral faction will be safe and sound, and will wait until he arrives. Sushin knew that this man never spared any effort, and that was why he had the opportunity to become even stronger. Right now, his strength was at the borderline of late heaven Dzogchen. With the help of this elixir, the growth of his cultivation would only be a matter of time. Li Huai was grateful to his boss. He doesn't need to be told that with the power of his beast sword technique, once Li Huai reached the early sky stage, the other groups in Chongning County would tremble before him. Thus, the Eagle faction would continue to stand like a cliff. They will make sure that the Eagle faction will exist forever. With brothers like them, Sushin is sure that he doesn't have much to worry about. The next day, everyone welcomed the mentor with their arrival. Qingcheng Sword School, the sword of the four perfections, Wu Daoyuan. He called them a bunch of lowlifes, and also asked where Dongting's body was. Haoming explained to the mentor that they didn't dare to do anything before his arrival. They had already delivered the bodies of the disciple and Gong Qingfeng. He looked at the corpses that lay on the ground. Afterward, he told Haoming to come over to him. The man approached and asked his mentor what instructions there would be for him. Wu Daoyuan punched the man and called him an idiot. Earlier, this Sushin had informed them that Dongting along with Wu Qi had fought against Gong Qingfeng together and died together. The man replied that the mentor was correct. They examined the wounds, and judging from them, it was just as Sushin had said. But that's just silly. Even their cultivation level isn't high enough. Not to mention that they can't see the important clues on the corpse yet. Does he really think that Dunton, given his proclivities, is capable of fighting the footmen side by side until the end, and dying with him? And judging from the flowing true qi, it was obvious that the wounds on these three corpses had been tampered with. They didn't expect what the mentor would reveal. That bastard Sushin dares to fool them. But unfortunately, he didn't limit himself to just that. Wu Daoyuan tore Fang Dongting's clothes with his strength. There was some kind of black circle on his body. The man didn't know what it was, after which he shouted for everyone to step aside. Blood spatters appeared. The person who killed Fang Dongting used a powerful technique that split his inner meridians. After using this technique, traces of the killer's true ki were left inside the corpse. He had infused his true ki, which was why they were able to detect what was now in front of them. He believes that the technique used to kill the man refers to the finger technique. Finally, he was finished off with a sword. It is quite obvious that someone deliberately tried to conceal the method of killing. This is definitely Su Xin's handiwork. Hu Ming had heard that he was a rather unusual kid, and he couldn't be judged by a big yardstick. And now he dared to kill a person from their school. He really doesn't need to take courage. The man ordered the fellow to be brought to him at once. But then he changed his mind and decided to pay him a personal visit. The Eagle faction has already been clamoring about where their head is. The man yelled for them to get him here immediately, but he asked not to put them in a difficult position. As it turned out, it was announced within their faction this morning that faction head Su had handed over his position to Li Huang. No one knows where the former faction head went. It's too bad he doesn't know anything. In that case, Wu Daoyuan will talk to the new faction head. And if he refuses, he will miss out on the tray of the entire Eagle faction. The man asked not to do that, but he jumped on him to kill him. Li Huai came to his rescue. The man asked who dared to stop him. Li Huai introduced himself as the current head of the Eagle faction. He came here to introduce himself to Mr. Wu. The current faction head is merely at the final stage of late heaven. Even so, he dared to swing his sword in front of him. She doesn't care about the feud between the Qingcheng school and Su Xin. Also, he can't touch members of the Eagle faction. Shi Qian greeted Mr. Wu. The heavenly maiden of Yijian school doesn't need to address him so formally. However, this Su Xin dared to kill his disciple. Is it for the sake of some tiny faction leader that she is willing to become their enemy? The girl repeated that it was Su Xin who killed his disciple. If Su Xin caused him an insult, the man can find him and take revenge. However, she is in debt to the Eagle faction and he cannot touch her. He saw that Meng Jingxian's disciple, the head of the Yijian school, did not lack courage. If it was her master in front of him, he would have turned around and left without a word. But it was her in front of him now. So there's no reason for him to leave now. The newly arrived man explained that he shouldn't have any objections, because Jian is a student of Yijian school. As it turns out, that person's name is Chu Bufeng. Has the Honorable Wu come to the point of oppressing the younger generation? This is not something to be proud of. Chu Bufeng's nickname is the Unwavering Sword. Wu Daoyuan wondered what a master from the top 10 of the human list whose strength was at the peak of Shenggong was doing here. He saw that the Qingcheng school was acting too recklessly. If Honorable Wu dared to say anything else unnecessary, he would cut him. Chu Bufan must have lost his mind to say such things. The head of the Eagle faction killed the son of the Qingcheng school elder, and now the Yijian school was going to protect them. Now it was getting interesting who was oppressing who now. Even if he is Chu Bufan, does he even have the right to declare war on behalf of the Yijian school? Well, he doesn't really care who he kills. However, if anyone dares to touch the people who are under the protection of the Yijian school, he will personally get even with them. Be that as it may, he is a representative of one of the great groups. Isn't he afraid of bringing shame to the Yijian school with his brazen actions? But Chu Bufan only told him to shut up, and explained that he just had that kind of temper from birth. With those brash words, he began to piss him off even more. The man assumed that Qingcheng school had decided to take advantage of their master's absence today. They just pretend to seek revenge, and secretly expect to get their paws on the keys to the treasury. But right now, it's about the relationship between the two great sword schools. Chu Bufan should not slander them without reason. Since it came down to preserving their relationship, he should take his master and get out of here. Does he really think that their school is afraid of the Yijian school? Wu Daoyuan told him to shut up. They decided to leave. After they left, the man called them a gang of little bastards. She thanked Mentor Chu, for he had arrived just in time. The girl doesn't know what would have happened if he hadn't been here. That little brat should be glad his business brought him here. Otherwise, she'd be in trouble. Well, the girl just showed him her tongue. Li Huai thanked Mr. Chu for coming to their rescue. The girl explained that faction leader Li shouldn't express his gratitude. Because of the treasure, they would stay in Changnin County for a while longer. They will never forget Mrs. Z's kindness. She also said that it was all organized by their past boss. Not to mention that he had provided Yijian school with one extremely talented person. It turns out the boss really had it all figured out. Huang suggested setting up a table for the guest of honor who had just recently arrived in Changning County. Chu Bufan was fine with it. He told the Honorable Huan to lead them, and also that he should remember to bring a good drink. A little later, the man asked his mentor what they should do now, if Su Xin could really get away with it. From his strength, the table began to break. He explained to this clueless idiot that the Qingcheng school wouldn't be able to save face if they got away with killing his direct student. Hao Ming didn't he understand what to do then? He had just received information that Su Xin had left the city on horseback last night. Right now, they didn't even know which direction he had headed. Find out. He couldn't do it naturally. He is too foolish to think that with the power of the early sky, it is impossible to overtake a fast horse. If the mentor says so, he will immediately give an order to catch up with Su Xin. But the mentor told him to wait. In Changning County, one of the branches of the Blood Mantle Tower exists. The man should send people there, have them get in touch with the leader of the Blood Mantle Tower in Shangnan Province. They need to find out Su Xin's exact location. It turns out that the mentor wants to hire people from the Blood Mantle Tower to kill Su Xin. Naturally, he will do it himself. Qingcheng School is famous for its righteousness, so they can't hire an assassin for such a small matter. He understood his mentor's intent, and as soon as he got the information, he would report back to him immediately. A disciple also arrived at his beck and call. He ordered to head straight to the school and pass on the news so that they would put a bounty on Su Xin's head on the blacklist. He should also tell them not to be stingy. Meanwhile, Su Xin was riding a horse. As it turned out, he had been riding non-stop for the third day. He should be crossing the forests of Jiangnan any minute now. He also did not know the current situation in Changning County. But there were already people following him. He stopped the horse, whereupon the guy asked who was here. He killed the Qingcheng School's man, and on top of that, he was almost able to fool him. His courage is truly impressive. He was caught up after all. Su Xin wondered how quickly they had caught up with him like that. But he's not as brave as he's made out to be. Besides, Fang Dongting himself tried to kill him. It's only natural that he had to fight back. Even bulls and rams won't just give themselves up for slaughter. The man recognized that he had said it all well. He admired his fortitude, so he gave him a choice. Either Su Xin would kill himself or Wu Daoyuan would personally kill him. But he should remember the words of the protagonist. He had said that he was not cattle, and he would certainly not go willingly to the slaughter. He'll pay for being so stubborn. Wu Daoyuan summoned his sword. That's the sword that came out of its sheath. He jumped to grab that sword and give it a crushing blow. The silhouette of a phoenix appeared behind him. Since the guy chose the first option, at what point would he end Su Xin himself? He used the water and fire technique, the flame bird. The guy felt the power that is at the Shenggong border. Su Xin began to prepare the system for Vajrayana conversion. The guy was shocked that the system didn't work. She was unable to give him access to the store. There was less and less time left before this attack caught up with him. After all he's been through, this is where he's going to die. But fate decided to have mercy on him after all. Some unknown object dispelled Wu Daoyuan's technique. He didn't expect anyone to help this guy. Who would have thought that a master at the Shenggong boundary would use his full power to kill a cultivator who hadn't even reached the early heaven level? Fortunately, Taewu King came to his rescue, as he always does. He had already saved the protagonist from many troubles. No one expected to see a representative of the imperial court here. But at the moment, he is not a representative of the imperial house. Now, he is the one who will kill him with his own hands. He's so cocky. This is not good at all. He thought this attack was directed at him, but it wasn't like that. Wu Daoyuan shouted for everyone to move aside, but it was too late. The last word the student uttered was exactly mentor, after which he fell. How unfortunate that after the passing of the great master of the four perfections of the Qingcheng school, none of them had ever been able to master the technique of the four perfections. What a shame. Now, the only thing left of the four perfections technique was the White Tiger technique branch led by Wu Daoyuan. There were rumors that the four perfect techniques had no followers left at all. Is it really true? Daoyuan was asked who he even was for daring to do such a thing. Wuchen couldn't bear to see the martial arts community of past generations fall into disrepair. Be that as it may, he is still on the human list. So the man had one question. How after all these years of training can you still be at such a low level? Taewu King was able to piss this old man off. Wu Daoyuan shouted at him to shut up. The old man used a spiritual technique, Great White Tiger. Of course, he attacked the man with the desire to kill him. But the truth is that Taewu King doesn't think so. He stopped Wu Daoyuan's sword. This historian dared to attack him to kill him when he himself is nothing but trash. Mahamudra of Mount Sumeru. This man is a phoenix-winged knife wielder and a representative of the T family of 6 ministries. He has pretty good powers of observation, but it's too bad it won't do him any good. That kid really went out of his way to kill him. Wu Daoyuan recoiled from this attack. Taewu King is a prominent person in the imperial court, and yet he so rashly interferes in the affairs of Jianghu's people. Apparently, he is not afraid of the consequences at all. But he's talking too much for someone who's about to die, and that annoying old man was finally done. All the man said was that garbage will always remain garbage. Sushin observed this. Tae-woo King assumed that the Su faction leader didn't expect to see him here. The boy confirmed these words. Mr. T had always been a mystery to him. Is this kind of strength befitting the position of the chief warden of the 12th Eastern District? But this is where he's really wrong. The Imperial Court has indeed appointed him to the post of senior warden of the 12th Eastern District. Before that, he was just a small-time detective. Could it be that all the petty detectives are capable of killing a warrior on the Shengong border in a second? Sushin is very grateful to Mr. T for coming to his rescue today, but he still wants to know what it all means. If truth be told, the Imperial Court had long been aware of the existence of Du Yuansheng's underlings. The same goes for the treasure, as well as Shun Qingfeng's true identity. One wondered at the time why they were not exterminated and allowed to live until the present. In fact, that's all they know. The problem was what is unknown about other people. They don't know how many followers they have either. 2 years ago, the Imperial Court had sent him to Chungning County to work undercover to find a way to cover them all in one fell swoop. The miscalculation was that they didn't expect Gong Qingfeng and the others to be so patient, only to proceed with their plans 2 years later. It turns out that he had thought of everything in detail. Even if Gong Qingfeng and Jiang Lin didn't die in the dungeon, they still wouldn't leave Changning County alive. And it seemed like he wasn't going to do anything about Sushin and the rest of Changning's guild leaders getting hit in this way. But don't blame him for this situation he was in now. He had actually tried to draw Sushin's attention earlier. When he had asked about the school's stance regarding the treasure, he had actually hinted at the true state of affairs. Unfortunately, it's too late to think about it. He didn't look like the Su faction's faction leader was repenting for what he had done. He simply killed Fang Rui, the son of the Blue Sword of Destruction, without a word. A person who had reached the boundary of the primordial spirit. And from the looks of it, he didn't even hesitate for a second. He asked Mr. T not to call him faction leader. After all that happened, he was like a strayed dog who could only run away without a trace. But it doesn't have to be. Since he didn't hesitate to kill Wu Daoyuan, a member of the White Tiger Direction, one of the 4 Perfection sword group from the Qingcheng school, to save Sushin, Tae-woo King should offer him another way out. But the guy really didn't understand what Mr. T was talking about. Well, it was pretty simple. He needs to join 6 ministries. Sushin clearly did not expect this. He's already said that Sushin's talent is being wasted. His skills will come in handy in the civil service. Of course, it would be a step backwards for him. But right now, he had no choice but to join the 6 ministries. And the gentleman has played his cards really well. He's afraid that it clearly took more than a couple of days to prepare such an offer. Tae-woo King has recognized him as wired. He believes that Sushin's hidden potential will bring the Tae family into raptures. But he suggested that all is not quiet within the 6 ministries either. There would be a power struggle in the main repertoire. He had only recently entered his life path and hadn't even reached the early heaven level. If he joined the 6 ministries, he might play the role of a whipping boy there. But in this world, there are power struggles everywhere, although the T-clan is the most prominent in the 6 ministries. But recently, there have been people who have begun to claim their position, and there are many of them. Tae-woo King realizes that he is worried about the difficulties that await on the road after joining the 6 ministries. But the thing is, his name has been placed on a blacklist. Now the 6 ministries and the Tae-clan are his only possible choices. Of course, this is the first time the protagonist has heard of the blacklist. He may not have known it, but the guy became the first late sky warrior to have a blacklisted bounty assigned to him. You could say he set a record. The blacklist works on the same principles as the heavenly, earthly, and human lists. There are 360 names on this list. The only difference is that there is a reward for the heads of the people on the blacklist. The rankings and the amount of the reward also depends on the strength of the warrior. The reward that the Qingcheng Blacklist School has set for him is not insignificant. Given his current strength, the guy should be able to realize how long he can live under these circumstances. Realizing the whole current situation, he thanked Mr. Tae for the offer and agreed to join the 6 ministries. He made the right choice. Wise is he who considers the course of events. And there's no need to worry too much. Being a member of the 6 ministries was not as bad as he had imagined. He couldn't vouch for how the Imperial Court would treat him, but he could assure Sushin that the 6 ministries and the Tae clan wouldn't harm him. He started cleaning up the evidence behind him. The guy was interested in how he disposed of the corpses. It's not necessary, but it's better that no one knows about the recent events. After all, Tae-woo King is acting on behalf of the 6 ministries. They're trying to keep their work out of the public eye. He asked Mr. T because he didn't know if it could be done. It was possible that the 6 ministries could remove his name from the blacklist, but there's no way to do that. If it was about the human list, he could help make some changes to it. However, the blacklist and everything related to it is under the control of 8 sects of sorcery. The 6 ministries have no direct influence over them. He doesn't have to worry about it. If there was no news about the people on the blacklist for 6 months, their names were automatically removed from the blacklist. 6 ministries will definitely find a way to give him a safe place for 6 months. So all he has to do is lay low for 6 months. Guy asked how the hierarchy in the 6 ministries was organized and what position he would hold once he joined. The highest position in the 6 ministries is that of Chief Commandant. This position is currently held by the head of the Tay clan, the Tay Ao Vulture. After him in the hierarchy come the 4 great overseers. One of these positions is also held by a member of the Tay clan. After the 4 great wardens come the senior wardens of the provinces. There are 49 provinces in this country, and each province has 1 senior warden and several junior wardens. In addition, there are several provinces and districts in each province. If these districts have high influence, then the 6 ministries can also send individual senior wardens to them. At the same time, if the influence of the districts is low, then 1 senior warden is responsible for the entire province. Of course, all this power is on the surface. The true balance of power in the 6 ministries is not something that ordinary people are allowed to know. No wonder the people of Jianghu are terrified at the mere mention of the 6 ministries. The power of this ministry is indeed great. In addition to the chief wardens, there are 2 other forces at the disposal of the 6 ministries in each province. There are also unclassified senior wardens in each province who report directly to the general command. They are divided into secret agents and Zhuifeng sentries. Secret agents are the eyes and ears of the 6 ministries. Their main duty is to check and supervise people from the militant communities who are doing illegal activities, as well as gathering intelligence. Because of this, the 6 ministries have a wide information network and rely on them for their information. As for Zhuifeng's sentries, in addition to gathering information, they often have to pursue fugitives from martial communities. In addition to gathering information, Zhuifeng's sentries also have to carry out controversial tasks alone, but its emblem was inscribed Zhuifeng. The requirements for the strength and training of Zhuifeng sentries are much higher than those of secret agents. Before he assumed the position of the senior warden of Chongning County, he also had the status of a Zhuifeng sentinel. His assignment was to seek out the underdogs of the ferocious lion and cover them in one fell swoop. And for this task, all the forces of the 6 ministries that were in Shangnan province were provided. It turns out that Mr. Tay is proposing that Su Xin be appointed as Zhuifeng's sentinel. He has guessed correctly. In fact, his power isn't strong enough to take the position. But given his intelligence and methods, there is no better position for him than this one. He showed a potion of mysterious power called the Tian Chong Pill. With its help, he would be able to achieve the power at the border of early heaven's Chai Hai in a short period of time. Taewu King hopes the kid doesn't disappoint him. Su Xin thanked Mr. T. In completing the task of eliminating Du Yuansheng's underdogs, there was also Su Xin's merit. He deserves it. Taewu King will report to the 6 ministries on his merits. When the time comes, he will be able to exchange his points at the headquarters for the elixirs, techniques, skills, and so on that he needs. He's borrowing the guy's horse for now. He asked to wait for him here. The man will return in a few days, but for now, he will go to the Shangnan Province Branch 6 of the Ministry and give them the information about Su Xing. He has the opportunity to make the most of this time and reach the early sky-level boundary. There's no way Su Xin should leave here until he returns. Zhou Dynasty, Shengjing City, the head office of 6 ministries. A man came out to post an updated human list. Another man started pushing. The other men shouted at him where his manners had gone. These people have got a lot of nerve. Whoever dares to crowd him gets his ass kicked. The people list for the current period has been updated and will remain so until next month today. The same applies to ranks. Anyone who riots in front of the 6 ministries will be killed without pardon. Everyone immediately fell silent. Fu Lin Changhe of the Taoist primary substance sect has been grabbing the top spot for 5 years. It's a new record. Second on the list, however, was He Shu, the Child of the Sword. He Shu Sword Child and Lord of Tranquility have also been ranked 2nd and 3rd for 2 or 3 years now. It seems like the human list is pretty stable this time around. But it was a wonder why the Yiqian School's celestial maiden, Xie Jian, had suddenly moved from 78th place to 31st place out of the blue. It was written in the girl's battle merits that she had single-handedly destroyed 20 Taihu people, for which she received the title of Heavenly Maiden. Then she had destroyed 4 demons from Loshan without flaw, using the Yijian foresight technique. And 3 days ago, she had slain a warrior with the Shenggong strength of the early heaven, the head of the summer altar hall of the year cycle group, Zhang Ling. Another man said about writing down this note faster, because this is very important news. They also noticed another change. The list included a person who was not a member of any current. It was Su Xin's swift sword. It was unclear how a warrior at the late heaven level could be on the human roster. He was originally the head of a small faction in Xiangnan province. 3 days ago, he defeated Fang Dongting, the son of an elder of Qingcheng School, and took his 105th place on the human list. At the same time, Qingcheng School had set a high reward for him in the blacklist. Being a person who is not a member of any current, he dared to kill a person from the Qingcheng School. This character is really fierce, but the man hit him to make him write faster. If he can't sell the information because of his hiccups, he'll skin the man. 4 days later, Jiangnan Province, Shengjian Mountain Peak, Yijin Sword School. Xieqian tried to calm the little girl down, explaining that her brother was no longer in any danger. She knows that. Jinner will master this sword technique perfectly to be able to protect her brother. She will really be able to do that. Meanwhile, the guy was cultivating. He heard someone nearby, after which he asked who was here. It was Tei Wuqing who had noticed that there was such a powerful energy around Su Xin's human list talent. It looked like he had restrained his cultivation for quite a long time. Su Xin greeted Mr. T. But such courtesy is unnecessary, especially since he is already on the human roster, so he is no longer a nobody. The boy didn't understand what the gentleman meant. He would understand everything better if he looked at it with his own eyes. Teutzen had just brought the list from the people's room, and it was indeed signed there as a swift sword. With that kind of imagination, they could have come up with an even worse name. When you hear that name, you get the impression that you're talking about some little bastard. The guy wondered who was there who had so generously bestowed such a nickname upon him. Just looking at Xiejian's nickname, Yuanyu 9 Calamities, one could immediately tell what her skill level was, but he should be happy about it. There are far more unpleasant nicknames among Jiang Hu's men. Besides, it can easily be changed once he achieves worthwhile martial merits. But for now, he should forget about it. Right now, he's on the blacklist, and fame is the last thing he needs right now. The guy is saying all the right things. Te Wuqing is glad that he was able to reach the Qihai boundary of the early sky. After all, he had just got a task for the boy in Shangshan City. He must have heard that this city was the largest trading center in Xiangnan Province. However, it was very different from Changning County and other districts and regions in the province. Originally, Shangshan was not a city as such. It wasn't until a few decades ago that the current ruler of the city himself founded it. This ruler is the head of the Spirit Harmony martial community, whose name is Yan Huangjiu. It's worth noting that if Shangshan was just a commercial center, they wouldn't pay attention to it. However, aside from that, the city is also a gathering place for cultivators from all over Xiangnan province. In this place, the weakest cultivator one would encounter would be at the beginning or middle level of the late sky. There must be a purpose why the imperial court wants to send him to such a place. Perhaps there is a problem in Shangshan City that needs to be resolved. There was no specific problem, but there was a threat of one. Although Yan Huangju was officially the head of the Spirit Harmony martial community, but he was already too old, and according to their information, he didn't have much longer to live. A month ago, he gave away most of his power in hopes of choosing a worthy heir among his 13 sons and daughters. Now he was swinging between the currents of the Jianghu people and the imperial court. If he had continued to rule the city himself, the imperial court would have let it slide. But his sons and daughters are not so simple. Many of them now have the great groups of Xiangnan province behind them. It is unclear whether whoever becomes the head of Shanshan will remain neutral like their father, or if they will choose between the martial communities and the imperial court. If what he says is true, and the great bands are really pouring oil on the fire, then if they decide to play fair, things could work out. But if they do cause turmoil or rebellion, the consequences are hard to imagine. So his assignment is to support one candidate who will side with the imperial court and help him become the head of the city. But if that proves impossible, he can kill them all if necessary. He understands the essence of the assignment, and so he inquired about the timeline. Considering Yan Huangju's health condition, the biggest thing is a year. But after all, he still has 6 months to hide because of his being blacklisted. So doing it for the remaining 6 months is going to be a bit of a problem. Taewoo King understands what the guy is worried about, so he has already prepared a new identity for him. But Su Xin still needs to go with him to order a mask with human skin that he will wear to hide his real identity. After that, he will be able to proceed with the mission. But you don't have to go to all that trouble. If he needs a mask, he already has one. He pulled out a mask and put it on. The boy wondered what Mr. T thought about it. The man replied that this mask was flawless. If he hadn't seen Su Xin wearing it with his own eyes, he would have definitely mistaken him for someone else. The man gave him information about his new identity. Let him not immediately rush to Shanshan City, but first familiarize himself with his legend properly. This book contains information about the martial communities of the 6 ministries. The book categorizes all the communities into 3 tiers based on their influence. It also shows some of the ways in which secret agents communicate with each other. Wu Qing still has some things to do, so he'll leave now. A guy shouldn't take on something he can't do. If things don't go according to plan, he should run away right away. It doesn't even matter if he fails the task. In that case, the top will send stronger people to deal with the matter. Since the man trusted him, there was no way Su Xin would harm his reputation. He will definitely complete this assignment. He loves dealing with smart people, because they grasp everything on the fly. The protagonist wished the gentleman a happy journey. A little later, he read the new information about himself. Su Xin is undercover, which is what you'd expect from 6 ministries. His character is a human from the human list. As a disciple of the Wanderer of the 4 Perfections Zhong Haoyan, he needs to look, speak, and act accordingly. Currently, the owner had 1,180 antagonist points, as well as 113 top-level rotations. The system suggested using them now. This damn system just now decided to show itself. Where was it when its owner almost died? As it turned out, the system was discovered to be secretly monitored by a strong master. In order to preserve the system's existence in secret, an automatic shutdown was initiated. It turns out that it can put him in a similar position when his life is at stake. But the system doesn't understand. The owner now has all his arms and legs in place and nothing life-threatening. So why does he look unhappy? If the damn system has any conscience left, let it tell him the right technique for his current situation. Based on the owner's request, the system recommended to choose the Crimson River's spiritual sword technique, which belongs to Fang Yingkang. The technique rating is 3 stars, and the character rating is 3.5 stars. Fan Yingkan. The full version of the Crimson River spiritual sword includes the sword technique itself, the later developed Crimson River finger technique, and the earth-level blade of the Crimson River sword, which the man received from his father Fang Juxia. The owner should also take note that he did not have enough antagonist points to purchase the full set. The system automatically spent 80 starting level spins, as well as all the antagonist points available to the wielder to purchase the first stage of the Crimson River spiritual sword technique. The guy asked what kind of person this system is. It seems like it should be up to him to decide what to spend those points on. It shouldn't be up to the system. But the system does not belong to any biological category, is therefore not a human being. Still, he surrendered under the onslaught of the system. Su Xin ordered him to exchange the remaining entry-level spins for mid-level spins and use them. Download has begun. The machine was in condition for use. The system congratulated the owner on his winning the consumable item, Air Execution. The owner of the technique is named Wuhua Hashan, and her rating is 2 stars. This subject was too strange, so he decided to continue. This time he received an elixir, but the guy didn't wait for an explanation on how to use this elixir, and immediately started the next rotation. This time, the system congratulated him for obtaining the Duan Yanking character technique. The techniques, First Yang's Finger, Duan Clan's swordsmanship art, and ventriloquism art, were also obtained. The character rating is 3 stars, and the technique rating ranges from 0.5 to 3.5 stars. Although the strength of the technique is relatively low, it will come in handy in his current position. If one were to use his realized sword intent, one would be able to compensate for its lack of power. 2 days later, Shanshan City. Finally, he saw what this city was like. The boy recognized that it was quite lively. Other people began to hurry, for something interesting was about to begin. The man asked why the other man was in a hurry. Such an event happens every day. Su Xin put his hand on him and the man asked what he wanted. The protagonist apologized for being rude. He explained that he just wanted to know what they had just talked about. The man only shook off his hand and asked his brother if this was his first time in Shanshan. The guy wondered how on earth he had been able to guess that. Those arriving here for the first time have no idea about the Cloud Arena. Every day at this time, there are fights in the Cloud Arena. Naturally, crowds of people flock there to watch. He wondered what this Cloud Arena was all about. The man explained that this is one of the features of Shanshan. It is a public arena in the center of the city, which was erected by the head of Yan City. There is a ranking of 100 people in the Cloud Arena. If a warrior wishes to participate, he must first pay the mandatory fee. If a person wins, he advances in rank and, of course, receives a monetary reward. If the winner does not wish to continue participating, he or she loses 1/3 of the reward. As for those in the top 30, if they manage to hold their positions for a month, the head of the city pays them a generous reward in the form of a bonus. Using the warriors' fees for tickets, a reward is generated, and those who want to end their participation must still return 1/3 of the reward. And the Yan head of this city is indeed a businessman from heaven. Warriors take part in battles in the Cloud Arena to become famous. He understands that. But at first glance, the head of the city himself has nothing to gain from it. But it's not like that. If he could stay in the top 10 of the Cloud Arena for 3 days or more, or directly defeat someone from the top 30 and take his place, then the head of the city could personally hire him. Now I see what this is all about. It turns out that the main purpose of the Cloud Arena is to find talented people. The man also warned that if he saw a group of 13 noble people, he should never incur their wrath. These people are the sons and daughters of the head of Yan City. Just recently, the head of the city decided to choose his successor. He gave each of the candidates one symbol, which gives the right to manage one shopping street. During this year, the one who earns the most will become the heir. But after all, the head of Yan City is also a master of the martial arts community. Why would he even care about the future heir's commercial ability? Of course, that wasn't the point. The symbols given by the Yan City head could be given as well as captured through battles in the Cloud Arena. Heir candidates could pit their warriors against each other and put their symbols on the line. In this way, it is possible to capture a symbol from another candidate. Su Xin, who was pretending to be Meng Qingji at the moment, thanked the stranger whose name he did not know. This man's name is Fang Hao. He took the boy's hand and led him to the arena as the fight was about to begin. And so they arrived at the arena. He marveled at how big the scene was. Fang Hao told him to speak softly and turned his attention to the people sitting upstairs. As it turned out, they were the 13 children of the Yan City head. The one in the center was the eldest son of the head of the city, whose name is Yan Shuheng. He is the one with the most savings in Shanshan City. On the left sits the second son of the head of Yan City, whose name is Yan Zhongheng. This man is famous for his cunning and cruelty. He is arrogant and willful, and does not tolerate a grain of sand in his eye. And this is the 9th son of the head of Yan City, whose name is Yan Chengheng. He is a man of integrity who is known for his fairness and unselfishness, and also has an excellent reputation outside the city. All in all, he is the complete opposite of the second son. And this is the 13th son of the head of Yan City, Yan Jiheng. This is his favorite son, and standing beside him are his protectors as well. The head of Yan City personally selected and granted his 13th son 3 early heaven warriors. These 4 have the best chance of winning this race. The other 8 candidates know they don't have enough power and influence to win, so they all align themselves with one of the 4 main candidates. But after all, the city head has 13 children, and he was only talking about the other 8. Maybe Fang Hao just made a mistake. Then, he pointed to the place where the 12th daughter of the Yan City head, whose name is Yan Qingshui, was standing. Her status is different from the other 12 sons and daughters. She is an illegitimate daughter. Yan Huangju's 12th daughter, Yan Qingshui, although Madame Yan's mother was not of noble blood, and the other siblings are most disliked by the young lady, she is nevertheless famous for her integrity and kindness to others. In any case, she has no backbone to win this race. The system has given him a task called Ungrateful and Windy. He needs to gain the love of Yan Qingshui's 12th illegitimate daughter and then dump her. The time limit was 1 year. As a reward, he would be given 500 antagonist points and 5 mid-level spins. If he failed the task, 500 antagonist points and 5 years of life would be taken away. This system has no morals at all since it issues such an assignment as churlish and windy. It would be better suited to the name of the male system. The system reminded that this assignment is a primary assignment and the owner cannot opt out of it. He only stared at the system in silence. Fang Hao touched his shoulder and asked his brother where he was hovering. Could it be that he was so much enchanted by young Miss Yan Qingshui's beauty Sushin replied that the brother was only thinking hard. The man explained that there was no shame in it. They are both men, after all. To tell the truth, when Fang Hao himself first saw her, his reaction was much stronger than Sushin's. Alas, now the young mistress can only sympathize. After the death of her mother, and the hardships that followed, the head of Yan City finally brought her to Shanshan, but none of the other members recognized her. And now, because of this whole situation with symbols, she will have to overcome even more difficulties. But it doesn't have to be. Living on the mercy of others often means living on a bird's license. She should know what that means. If the system pointed to her, then he would start with that girl. Besides, it would be a good start for the assignment he received from the 6 ministries. Since Sushin was destined to hurt her, he would immediately start with compensation and give her a grand gesture. Yan Zhongheng noticed that they had been competing in the Cloud Arena for so long, but so far, no one had surpassed anyone. He asked if there was even any point in continuing like this. Yan Zhongheng replied that determining the winner through battles in the Cloud Arena was second brother's idea. Yan Jicheng swept up. Everyone knows that the sibling and mother of the 2 brothers is a great saint of one of Xiangnan's great hands. Therefore, among his subordinates are all masters and experts. The second brother was tired of listening to this chatter. He also noticed that everyone else had already brought their subordinates to battle in the Cloud Arena. The only one left was Sis. He assumed to pit her subordinate against his Fang Ge. Yan Qingxu explained that she wasn't going to fight for the characters right now. If he was so eager to challenge her, then let him find someone else. If she doesn't want to put her fighter in the arena, that's up to her. Just let her give her symbol to Yan Zhongheng and he won't bother her anymore. The girl apologized because she couldn't give him up. She also asked him not to bother her anymore. Those words made him angry. Did that girl really think she could stay out of it? Either she will simply hand over her symbol, or she will send her subordinates to the Cloud Arena for slaughter. The first brother, Yan Shuheng, replied that the second brother was wrong. He also asked why he was scaring their little sister so much. The second brother explains that the first brother doesn't need to make a big deal out of it. They know exactly what he's up to. He turned to his sister and told her that if she gave her symbol to her older brother, there was no way he would let her down. He also mentioned whether her mother was from Ningzhou County. If she agreed to her brother's proposal, he would buy vacant land in Ningzhou County for her, and also erect a memorial tomb for her mother, but she only remained silent. The 13th brother noticed that little sister Qingchui was not at all interested in her big brother's proposal. He only looked at her angrily. Since Sis still can't make a choice, it shouldn't be a surprise that the other brother is so angry. Tonight, everything will be decided in the Cloud Arena, one way or another. The man asked the young mistress to let him go. Otherwise, the gentleman would not leave her alone. But he won't be able to handle Fang Gi. She explained to the second brother that she could not send her subordinates to certain death. Who the hell does she think she is? This girl is just a common bastard of the family. Does she have a fantasy in her head that she can become the head of the city? Qizhong, who was serving the young mistress, stepped in to make second brother watch his tongue. Since they need a fighter in the Cloud Arena, he is willing to do it. Qingsui asked him not to do anything stupid, but he only apologized to the lady. A man can't stand to see them throwing mud at her. He entered the arena. The second brother ordered his subordinate not to immediately start beating at full strength. Fanga also entered the Cloud Arena. He'll give this boy a chance. That's why Qi Jin can attack first. The man immediately attacked with his swords, but Fanji took his punch. If that's all he's capable of, then this scum should die. The girl began to worry about Qizhang. The man used a dark moon strike. This blow wounded Qizhang and knocked the swords out of his hands. Fango advised Qizhang to surrender while he could still do so. He also advised that the subordinate should tell his mistress to give up her symbol. But there's no way he'd betray his mistress. He got a great chance to survive and he's so ungrateful. Since he is in such a hurry to die, Fang Ge will fulfill his wishes. The girl immediately jumped up and yelled for him not to do it. She also appealed to Liang Bo to help Qizhang sooner rather than later. But it's worth remembering that this is the Cloud Arena, and if the old man interferes, he'll be breaking its rules. He is a respected man in the city, but if he lets his hands loose and disregards their good treatment, then let them not be surprised at the consequences that will follow. Fangi hopes that he will remain as faithful a dog in his next life as well. The man apologizes to the young mistress for no longer being able to protect her. The sword was already near his neck, but then a stick appeared and prevented the man from being killed. Others didn't realize what was happening or who did it. Qingsui was still worried about Qizhang, and so the protagonist appeared on the cloudy arena of the celestial sky. Fan Ge was angry after all. This bedbug was apparently looking for death since he was interfering in the fight. Upon entering Jianghu, years and months passed. He used his technique and hit the striker. This attack threw the man right back against the wall his master was standing on. Yan Zhongheng ordered everyone to capture this madman. 5 people immediately attacked him. He immediately drew his sword. After that, he used a technique. The grand plans are one big joke. Thanks to this technique, he dismantled everyone with all the people who wanted to grab him. But there's always time for a drink. This is a description of the legend of the protagonist's character. He found this drink to be excellent. Fang Hao did not understand what brother Meng Qingjie, who is Su Xin, was doing. Others noticed that he had released true ki. This is getting quite interesting, especially when they have an early sky warrior in front of them. The second son asked who he was and why he had come to town, and especially why he was making a mess of things here. If the road is rough, someone will level it. If there is injustice, someone will intervene. That's what's happening here. He hates to see a bunch of dorks insulting and bullying a weak, gentle girl. People in this century must value good, punish evil, and in the right part do not hesitate to show heroism. One must be free and proud. He said his name was Meng Qingjie and also swept up that he would stay in the city for a while. If anyone wants to take revenge on him, let them come boldly. He is not afraid of men who hover like flies and crawl like dogs. He will kill as many of them as come. The second brother already wanted to say something to him, but the subordinate stopped him because a very important stage was underway. Therefore, they should not complicate the situation further. They should weigh everything and think it over. Yan Zhongheng shouted out for this Mei Qingze to not hesitate, for they still had a long way to go, after which they decided to leave. Feng Hao didn't expect brother Meng to turn out to be a master. That's what it means to be a decent person who doesn't show his abilities. Although it's a little sad that the main character kept it from him. The girl wondered if her subordinate's league was in order. He apologized because he was of no use, but Qing Sui calmed him down. In fact, if Qi Zhang hadn't done so, she doesn't even know if she would have been able to continue to endure the attacks from all sides. But the man just can't stand the fact that they dared to harass the young mistress. Liang Bo remarked that he was still so young, and he was so easy to be pissed off by simple words. The old man explained that perhaps the appearance of this brave man called Meng Qingjie could prove to be a great fortune for them. Qing Sui asked what the old man meant. The old man explained to lure Meng Qingjie to his side. The girl confirmed the wire to the old men. Young Meng is indeed such a personable person. If such a person from Jianghu spurs their horse, it will be impossible for them. But first, she'd have to learn how to ride a horse herself. This man is apparently still reeling from his injuries. While the two were bickering among themselves, the old man turned to the young mistress. He saw the mistress's worries and tried to reassure her somehow. If they really managed to get his support, the girl wouldn't have to worry about her safety anymore. Not to mention the fact that she might have a chance to compete for the position of the city's head. She knows that Liang Bo wishes the best for her, but Mr. Meng is a master who possesses such crushing power. She doubts that she will be able to get his support. As it turned out, the girl had heard the name of this master somewhere before. Only she couldn't understand where she could have heard it. And something dawned on the old man's head, and he asked to bring the people's list. Qijin handed him the human list. Now it was clear where she might have heard that name. This Meng is indeed a newly minted warrior of the human list. In the past, he was a disciple of the Wanderer of the Four Perfections, a master at the boundary of spirit harmony. The second brother broke the table over all this news. He didn't understand where this man who is also on the human list even came from. This Meng Qingjie has absolutely no respect for Shanshan's foundations. The attendant, whose name was Zhang Guang, and who was on the Kuihai of the early sky, suggested that if they did not find this man, it could cause a lot of trouble in the future. Even if they do find him, what about what to do next? He seriously injured Fang Ge and the others. He is surrounded by nothing but scum. The man was also angered by the way this Meng Qingjie looked at him. Then all they can do is accept it. Other than being on the human list, they have seen him in action themselves. Although they are both at the border of the early heaven Shihai, Zhang Guang is definitely no match for him, but it makes no difference whether it is strong or not. Does the attendant think a strong dragon can't defeat a local serpent? If one man isn't enough to deal with it, he'll send 2. And if 2 aren't enough, he'll send 20. Junheng simply refuses to believe that it can't be killed. But he doesn't have to do that. His teacher is the Wanderer of the Four Perfections, Zhong Haoyan, who was once a master at the boundary of spirit harmony. In his early years, Zhong Haoyang traveled across the sea in search of ways to break through the boundaries of Yang-level spiritual power. Although there was no word from him until now, the fact that he had the time to train such a disciple showed that he had already succeeded in reaching Yang strength. With this kind of strength, even the city head wouldn't mess around. But they just can't just leave it at that. The guy was starting to feel like he had overplayed his hand a bit. If Yan Qingshui didn't dare to come to change him to his side because of this, then it would turn out that the plan was cunning, and he had done it rather foolishly. But he wouldn't worry about that for now. Worst case scenario, he'll have to figure out another way. Fang Hao came to him. He asked Brother Meng what he thought about accepting his younger brother. It's his first time in the city, and he doesn't know these places. He would probably need a guide. Does he really think he can work as a guide for free? Fang Hao replied that brother is such a generous master after all. Surely he could thank him a little. Of course, he will thank him. So while the protagonist is in Shanshan City, Fang Hao will accompany him. He knew the brother master wasn't some stingy little man, but he asked not to be called brother master, for it sounded strange. The man gave him the elixir in advance. And when Sushi leaves the city, the man will get more. As it turned out, it was a Shaolin small circulation elixir. He thanked the master for such a wonderful gift. Meanwhile, the man admitted that his second son has been getting more and more unreasonable lately. The subordinate asked his master to temper his anger. He brought what the head of the city had asked for. He also learned that this man was a disciple of Zhong Haoyan. As one could see, he had inherited his teacher's manner of drinking and writing poetry, as well as his fighting style. In the Cloud Arena, he won in a one-on-one fight, and then also defeated an entire crowd. It wasn't just his position in the human roster that clearly spoke for his strength. The head of Shangshan City, Yan Huangjue, asked if Qingshui had tried to enlist Meng Qingjue's support afterward. The man replied that Liang he had already offered young Miss to team up with her, but she had refused. Qingshui is a good child, but her conscience makes her too weak. He owes her a huge debt for what happened to her mother, and he will help his daughter this time. The girl may not worry. Even if she decides to go against her eldest and second sons, he will still protect her. The city head called out to Liang He. As it turned out, it was the same Liang Bo. Yan Huangju inquired what the old man had to say about this Meng Qingjie. Ling He replied that this youngster's character strongly resembled his teacher. The town leader was going to instruct the old man to team up with this kid. This servant knows that the head of the city is very fond of the young mistress. But in the current situation, the young mistress is not willing to bring a human-list person to her side, especially with a power as powerful as Meng Qingjie's. The mayor ordered me to bring it here. As it turned out, this picture had been hand-painted by Zhong Haoyan himself in the past. Fuck. He gave it to the love of his life Shen Shijun as a pledge when they got engaged. It's a picture of Shen Shijun herself. We should give this painting to Meng Qingjie as a gift, even though he is indeed Zhong Haoyan's disciple and has a noble character. But after receiving this gift, he will definitely agree to help them. The city leader also ordered to keep an eye on the two elder brothers and check if they eventually sought the help of the great groups of Xiangnan province. We need to find out what incidents in Shanshan they had a hand in. The girl replied to Liang Bo that she knew her father was helping her, but by doing so, they will force the man to thank them. This might cause Mr. Meng to resent them, but young mistress has nothing to worry about. Judging from Mr. Meng's actions, he is not at all such a petty and limited person. They were already being watched. This foolish woman really thinks that because this man saved her yesterday, he will immediately decide to jump into her arms. She's just asking for trouble. They came to the inn. The guy immediately saw Madame Yan Qingsui. He also apologized for not greeting her on the doorstep. She explained that she came here to express her gratitude for her help yesterday, but she shouldn't have to do that at all. He just couldn't stand what those people did. The guy invited everyone in. It is hard to find such valiant and noble people like Mr. Meng in the world nowadays. But young mistress, you must not exalt him so. He's not some noble knight. The lad is just a wanderer who follows his desires. So the girl inquired who he thought deserved such a title. He explained that such a title is deserved by the great heroes of this time who serve the state and the people, and also does not seek personal gain. This is a man with a clear conscience, who strives with his head to prop up the sky, and to stand on the ground with his feet. Mr. Meng really is a man of high principles. Qingshui was completely amazed by this. The girl assumed that the young mistress was attracted to Mr. Meng. However, she shouldn't forget why they came here. The boy asked to tell her what mistress needed. If it was in his power, he would definitely help her. She has one brazen request for him. The girl suggested that he join her faction. She asked the Lord not to be in a hurry to refuse the request. They know that asking him to get involved in the affairs of Shanshan City might put him in a difficult position. But if he agrees to help the young lady, the painting will become his property. This canvas must be familiar to the gentleman. And then he guessed that it was the painting his mentor had given to his mentor mother. Fortunately, Tewu King had given him quite a bit of information about the person he was pretending to be. Otherwise, he would have been quickly exposed. The girl replied that it was indeed the same canvas that Zhong Haoyan had given to his beloved as a pledge when they got engaged. Even if the guy doesn't agree to help them, that cloth will still be his. He can consider it as a thank you for helping them yesterday, but you shouldn't say that. This painting was very dear to his master. At that time, the Shen family rejected the marriage between the master and the mother mentor. Therefore, the mentor was forced to go to a distant land, and later it was said that the mother mentor died of illness. He searched for this painting for a very long time, but all was to no avail. Therefore, he even thought that the Shen family had gotten rid of it. Now that he can return the canvas to his mentor, however, the man is sure to be overjoyed. That reason alone is reason enough for him to agree to join the faction. If Mr. Meng can help them, Qing Sui will be eternally grateful to him. But the girl doesn't know whether she has the right to demand men to become her subordinate. The man explained that when doing anything, one must strictly follow the rules and laws. Any place needs a major and a minor. If others cannot see this, they will think she has no authority. Even the old man noticed that Mr. Meng's words and actions possessed true nobility. He had been a little doubtful before, but now he had no doubts left. The teacup broke. The second son didn't understand how this girl had managed to get hold of Zhong Haoyan's painting, and also why they hadn't gotten even a shred of information about it. The man explained that this Zhong Haoyan had been missing without a trace for 10 years. Even if someone had acquired this painting, he couldn't know what treasure had fallen into his hands. No one could have guessed that after 10 years of absence, he would train such a disciple and return to the martial community once again. Zhang Heng orders the men to gather, after which they will go to visit Meng Qingjie. The man wants to let him know that he is waiting for anyone who dares to poke his nose into his Shanshan's affairs. The subordinate tried to calm his master down. Since Mei Qingjie had already joined Qing Sui's group, the other three brothers would not sit idly by. They would no longer be able to hide the trump cards that they now held in their hands. This case isn't just about him. The rest of the brothers can't be allowed to stand idly by. Since Mr. Meng has decided to join them, he can go with her now. She will summon her people and they will hold a banquet in honor of his arrival. But Su Xin thinks that the person who has been following Qing Sui has already spread the news that he has joined her faction. The guy is afraid that some people couldn't help themselves and will come running here themselves. They shouldn't leave either. They'll wait for them here. At the same time, he can give the young mistress a great gift. The girl wondered what kind of gift we were talking about. Guy would let everyone in Shangshan City know that she now had enough strength to cross arms with Yan Zhuheng and the others. It didn't take long for the guests to arrive. It was one thing for a guy to arbitrarily interfere in the Cloud Arena battle yesterday. But now he's interfering in Shanshan's internal affairs. Does he really think that since he is on the human list, he can do whatever he wants? Yan Zhicheng explained that just because he was a disciple of the Wanderer of the Four Perfections, Zhong Haoyan, did not give him the right to rampage in the city. Yan Shuheng asked his little sister why she was doing this. If she were to seek the patronage of her elder brother, then he would, of course, protect her and provide her with a trouble-free life. But there are some things she can't get her hands on. The protagonist said that she was only modestly keeping up with the times and was merely taking advantage of one way to keep herself safe. If they can all secretly enjoy the support of other currents and groups, then why can't she do the same? It is obvious to him why all these people came here and what purpose they are pursuing. They've decided to pile up on him and kick him out of Shanshan. He's sorry to disappoint them, but that won't happen. On the contrary, he will ask them to go back to where they came from. The guy was fighting in the Cloud Arena again. People were discussing that just one person had inflicted defeat after defeat on the people accompanying the gentleman. It seemed to be the talent from the human roster. After he entered the young mistress's service, she had enough strength to compete on an equal footing with the other candidates. That was pretty hard to believe. So many people from Shanshan City saw the result of this competition. So the boy inquired about their agreement. The second brother already wanted to say something to him, but the first brother stopped him. It seems that it's not enough for the second brother that they have already lost today, and he wants them to lose face in Shanshan altogether. Yan Zhuheng told Shu Heng not to lecture him. He and Zhang Guang are leaving. The first explained that their subordinates were weaker. The promise, of course, must be kept. As long as Mr. Meng was in the city, surely they would not trouble their little sister. 13 added that he wished Mr. Meng had stayed with them longer. They don't have to worry about that. If Meng Qingjie takes on an assignment, he gives his all to its fulfillment. Since Honorable Meng was tired, she offered to walk with her to the park for a chat. The guy replied that she didn't need to be so ceremonious. They will just talk during the walk. He thinks that in such a short time they won't have time to get them in trouble. He inquired what the girl's future plans were. Master should have already seen that the strength of her subordinates is quite low. She can't rely on Master Ming for her time. Guy can certainly deal with the lack of strength of her subordinates, but it's important for him to know what Ms. Yan herself wants. Does she want to be permanently protected, or is she willing to fight for the position of the city's head? If it's just about safety, she has nothing to worry about now. But it's also worth considering what happens next. Is she going to wait for the 4 main candidates to take over and then turn their attention to her? She didn't even know what to say to that. Guy asked if it was okay to let someone sleep soundly on their own cot. All the thoughts and methods of her relatives must be right at her fingertips. She also has to think about the people around her. If that day comes, what will happen to that servant girl she grew up with? And what will happen to Liang Bo, who has always taken care of her, and Qi Zhang, who is like an older brother to her? Can the girl guarantee that they won't be affected? Such words disintegrated her, and she realized that she needed to fight, not just for herself, but for the others. The guy heard her words and her desires. Unfortunately, he wouldn't be able to keep her company in the park. Tomorrow he would be able to give her a proper response. After all, such a big thing as a struggle for the post of the mayor should be properly considered. Meanwhile, at the head of the city, he learned that judging from the current situation, if any of them inherited Shangshan City, they would become the vassal of the Shangnan martial communities. He also sensed the presence of Liang He, who had come but for some reason he wouldn't go in. Still, he went in and greeted the head. His man had already finished sorting out the elixirs. The higher order ones should be given to Meng Qingjie, and the rest should be used by the warriors he would gather around him. The head of the city has gathered so many resources, so he is going to support the young lady. But Yan Huangju immediately stopped this old man. He's out of his mind to be talking like this. Liang He apologized to the head. He was only happy for the young mistress, so he forgot himself. The head of the city is a father, after all. If someone finds out that he secretly favors one of his children, it will certainly create resentment. He doesn't want any of his children to plot a rebellion in Shanshan in the last years of his life. Long He understood the will of the city head, and so he said that no one would know about what happened today. Yan Qingshu's domain, the next day. She called Mr. Meng over to her. It seemed to the girl that by using that picture, she tricked the man into helping her. Therefore, she felt extremely uncomfortable. Fortunately, they happened to have some elixirs here, so she decided to give this as compensation. But she had not deceived him in any way. That cloth was more than enough. He was more interested in where she'd gotten those elixirs. The old man explained that they were given to him yesterday by the head of the city. Among them were the elixirs of the highest order, which the head of the city wanted to give to the man. He could use the other elixirs for the warriors he would gather around him. It was unexpected that Yan Huangju also intended to help Yan Qingshui. With these elixirs, they would be able to recruit about 20 late-level, late-heaven warriors at the border of great completion, or about 100 mid-level, late-heaven warriors. However, it would not be possible to hire early-level, late-heaven warriors. He decided to take up the quest to find the warriors of the early sky, but they had no idea how eager he was to bring the warriors of the early sky to their side. He does not doubt Mr. Meng's abilities, however. There are no early heaven warriors left in the city that they can recruit. Surely not all of the early sky warriors on the Cloud Arena roster are under the command of their competitors. It's true. There are a few people with free temperaments who don't like to be kept in line. Even the first and second sons could not win them over to their side. These men refused both of them. If they don't agree, he'll just make them do it. Even the girl confirmed that this is not a good plan. This will make people think that he conducts business through violence and fear. This could tarnish his valiant name. However, he has never considered himself a valiant man who puts the interests of the people and the state above all else. He is only a wanderer who likes to pry into other people's affairs. If it wasn't Miss Yan who was being harassed that day, but some burly brat, he wouldn't interfere even if he was killed. Master is indeed a man with a temperament. He can't be judged by conventional standards. He guarantees that in 3 days he will bring these people in. Since that's the case, the girl will wait for his results. The inn. A man came out and asked who it was. His expression immediately changed when he saw Mr. Meng. Feng Hao was glad that he had returned. The man had better decide that Sushin had abandoned him after getting together with young Miss Yan. The man really missed his brother while he was away, but the protagonist didn't like the way his leg was being held, so he threw the bigot aside. Pretend tears appeared in his eyes at the way the Lord had treated him. The protagonist has a serious case against him. If he can help, he will get a reward. He was immediately ready to carry out this assignment. The boy inquired about the approximate strength of the early sky warriors on the Cloud Arena's list. He asked how many of them had not yet joined the 4 main candidates or the head of the city. He explained that only the early heaven warriors at the boundary of the Clear Spirit are in the top 10 of the Cloud Arena list. However, no one knows exactly what stage they are at. The power of the early sky boundary of Clear Spirit mainly focuses on opening the 7 openings of the eyes, ears, nose, and mouth for spiritual perception. When the opening of the 7 openings is completed, it is possible to interact with the forces of heaven and earth, and also to refine the Shengong point, which is located in the person between the eyebrows. After that, the cultivator can reach the stored Shengong of early heaven. First on the list of the Cloud Arena is the Wind dissecting Le Zizhong. This is a person who had already opened 7 holes 2 years ago, and had already reached the highest point of the Clear Spirit boundary, and was a short distance away from the Shengong boundary. This master is now under the subordination of the head of the city. The guy wondered why there were no warriors on the Shengong early sky border on the Cloud Arena list. There used to be some of them. However, once they reached the Shengun boundary, they would all leave the city almost immediately and set out to seek ways to reach the boundaries of the primordial spirit. That was why they were leaving, and their names would naturally be removed from the Cloud Arena's list. To move from the boundaries of Shengong to the boundaries of original spirit, elixirs and hard training are not enough. It also requires finding a way to attain insight. Also in the top 30 of the Cloud Arena's list are the early sky warriors of the Chui High border. Among them, most of them are already under the city head and the 4 candidates. There are only 3 people who have not joined anyone. Number 16. The hand that breaks Neifan's blades. This man has dedicated his life to blacksmithing and has high natural talent. He was once taken under his wing by the hermit Jianghu and taught the art of swordsmanship and hand-to-hand combat. After the death of his teacher, he moved to this city. On ordinary days, he crafts unique weapons, so he lives in prosperity. For the same reason, everyone who came to hire him was refused. Number 21. Tao Xian. He is the head of the Donglin Martial Arts Palace. In the past, he had opened the Donglin Martial Arts Palace in Dacheng in Shangnan Province. During the same years, he had caused discontent from the Great Spiritual Blade Group, causing him to suffer complete ruin and the death of his family. He himself was seriously injured, but managed to escape to Shanshan, where he now lives. The mother of the 9th son of Yan Chengheng, the head of the city, is a member of the Spiritual Blade Group. As for the 3rd person, things are more interesting with him. The man wondered what he meant. This man's name is Hong Latao. His nickname is Fights a Lot, Loses a Lot. Among these 3, he is the strongest. In the list of the Cloud Arena, he is ranked 13th. Although his strength is on the border of the early Ski Chi-Hai, but since he loves to jump above his head and take on challenges beyond his strength, that's why he has never won, hence his nickname. He also refused to join the Gentleman Candidate Caucus. On top of that, he has set some pretty bizarre conditions for his hiring. He needs the hiring party's subordinates to definitely defeat him, then he will agree. But it's not difficult. Surely the head of the city and the 4 sons have warriors on the border of the Clear Spirit. If you use a warrior with clear spirit power against him, then he won't agree. He would only be satisfied if a warrior of his level came up against him and could win. He said that joining a faction was in no way in line with his own passion, and ended up putting forward such conditions. But that's not all. Earlier, the 2nd son had brought a warrior Chi-Hai of the early sky from the Zoroastrian sect, who was able to defeat him with great difficulty. But Hong Latao eventually said that his opponent's weapons and techniques were an order of magnitude better, and he refused to accept it. It's not that he's weird, it's more like he's just a cocky guy. In fact, there's nothing strange about this aspect. He is a lone cultivator, and all of his swordsmanship martial skills that he uses, Hong Letao has learned on his own. So naturally, they are not at all comparable to the techniques of the great schools and currents. In general, he understood this situation. Therefore, they will first pay a visit to Tao Qian, who is the head of the Donglin Martial Arts Palace. The man wondered what the gentleman was up to. The protagonist explained that he wanted to win them over to his side. Donglin territory, that's where the training took place. The man relayed to the chapter that the man outside was asking to see him. Tao Qian asked what kind of person he was. The man replied that the man called himself Meng Qingjie. Tao Qian didn't know what this person wanted from him. The man explained that he had come to ask Palace Head Tao to become part of his young mistress's faction. The man asked if he was talking about Yan Qingshui. Meng Qingjie replied that this was correct. He highly appreciates young Miss Yan's benevolence, but he doesn't want to be dragged into Shangshan's internal squabbles at all. So he asked Mr. Meng to leave, but the head of the palace shouldn't be in such a hurry to see off his guests like this. This matter is not so simple, and he may have already been involved in it. The protagonist had heard that the Tao chapter had previously encountered a group of spirit blades. The man is sure he couldn't get over it so easily. Tao Qian asked what was the point of saying all this. Did he really just want to go over his old wounds? But the guy only wanted to let the palace head know that if he thought that the struggle of the heirs for the Shanshan head position had nothing to do with him, he was deeply mistaken. He should know that the ninth son's mother is from this group. If he sits and waits for the ninth son to succeed the city, this city will inevitably become the vassal of the Thousand Blades group, and then they will also become the full masters of this place. In that case, the palace head can no longer stay here. But how was it even certain that the post of the head of the city would go to the ninth son? Even the young mistress is the weakest of all the candidates. In that case, it would be better for him to even join one of the remaining candidates. Although there are mutual conflicts between the great groups, but when it comes to external matters, they show an unexpected unanimity. They might be willing to sell his rather insignificant figure to improve relations between the groups. Or perhaps the man believes that his influence is capable of matching the weight of these groups. He admits that the protagonist is right. But why on earth should he believe that young Miss Yan is capable of taking over the posts of the head of the city? Right now, her strength is lower than everyone else's. He must believe simply because of the fact that Meng Qingjie himself is helping the girl. That alone is already enough. Throughout Shanshan City, people talk about his strength, but there are also rumors that he is a complete madman. After seeing this guy in person, he no longer doubts it. Either way, he's a dead man. If that's the case, then it's worth fighting for the aftermath. Therefore, he decided to join Yan Qingshui's faction. The man was shocked that they actually made it work. They're done with one, so it's time to look for another comrade. Namely, the hand that breaks blades, Nei Fan. They're gone. Tao Qian had already had the chance to meet this person. He deservedly holds the title of Master Blacksmith. Unfortunately, one person is unable to carry on the traditions of an entire teaching. Therefore, it is extremely difficult to create ranked weapons. It is truly regrettable. Truly worthwhile weapons are divided into 4 ranks, namely Celestial, Earthly, Dark, and Yellow. To become a recognized Master Smith, one must be able to make a blade of one of these levels. Meanwhile, the man began to drive his subordinates on. Tao Qian greeted Nei Fan. Last time, Honorable Tang's martial arts palace had ordered a whole batch of weapons from him. So the man wondered what had brought him here this time. But the man explained that it wasn't him who was looking for master. It was exactly Meng Qingjie. He apologized as he was not at all interested in the internal squabbles in Shanshan City. If the master came to hire him, there's no need to talk for nothing. For better or worse, the Honorable Nei Fan is one of the most prominent people in the city. Therefore, he will not be able to avoid choosing a country. But he'll see about that. Anyway, he's with no one right now. Then the man will have to resort to extreme methods. If he doesn't agree, the main character will stay here and won't go anywhere. If a customer comes to him, the guy will kick him out. He must know that Meng Qingjie has the strength to do that. The man had heard that this Mr. Meng was a man of high morals. He never thought he would stoop to such a low level. But is it shameless? There are numerous insidious and cruel methods in the world, and this method is pretty generous as it is. The man wondered if it was a yellow rank sword, which was to be expected from a master blacksmith's eye. This is indeed a yellow rank sword, a flying dragon sword. Just now he had behaved rather unceremoniously, and so he asked for forgiveness for that. He asked the master to allow him to admire this sword. But doesn't this honored man know that a warrior's sword is like his life? Of course, no one would put his sword in the hands of a stranger, Or he plotted to use his skills as a blacksmith and create a weapon, taking his sword as a base. Neifan replied that it was all a misunderstanding. He had never thought of such a thing. People said of the blade-splitting Delan that he was a man of integrity and righteousness, but it seems that he was a lowly and cowardly man. The boy realized that they had come to the wrong place. That's why they're going to leave here. But the man started to stop them and shouted that Neifan agreed to join their faction. Then Neifan clarified that if Mr. Meng agreed to give him his sword for a couple of days to study, then he would join them. He had already tried to forge a yellow rank weapon countless times, but due to his lack of experience, everything had been unsuccessful. Therefore, he would like to take a look at such a weapon and study it. They glanced amongst themselves, already knowing full well that he would indeed join their faction. But the master need not worry. The man guarantees that he only wants to learn the technique of forging his sword. He would never copy it. Looks like he was wrong about this esteemed Nei, and since he has already agreed to join the faction, he is no longer an outsider to them. They are now one family, so he can take the sword and study it. He was delighted at holding such a treasure in his hands. Meng Qingji revealed that this weapon is called the Flying Dragon Sword. With every strike, it makes a loud sound like a dragon river. Also, while he was studying it, he could try to find out if it was possible to get rid of this sound. It's really a brilliant idea. The design of the guard is not only capable of neutralizing the force of a counterstrike, but also capable of creating high-frequency vibrations. Add to this the sharp blade, and no ordinary sword can withstand its onslaught. He wondered why the gentleman wanted to get rid of the sound. When masters fight, they maintain maximum vigilance and focus. They also anticipate their opponent's movements. This sound is of little use against such masters. He recognized the validity of these words. A little later, he uses abyssal refined silver to make a soundproof coating for this sword. He told Ah Cheng to stir the brazier. 4 hours later, he finally finished his work. He brought the renewed sword and asked Mr. Meng if he liked it. This is impeccable work. The craftsmanship of the renowned artisan of Shanshan City speaks for itself. And lastly, there's still the much-fought, much-lost Hong Latao to visit. The subordinate reported to the city head that the man had already recruited 3 people. Yan Huangju didn't expect that he was even able to recruit Hong Latao. It is said that Meng Qingjie did not use any techniques of the great schools, but only relying on the techniques of usually hand-to-hand combat and sword striving, made him join the young mistress's faction. The city leader asked Zizhong what he would say about the man's methods. Le Zizhong's cutting wind. He recognized that this man is quick to navigate a situation and deserves his place on the human roster. He also has a sharp mind and oratorical skills. He thought that as Zhong Haoyan's disciple, he would just be a retired kid with a strong technique. Crossing Wind didn't expect that he would turn out to be so interesting, but this was where he was a bit wrong. Although Zhong Haoyang has a good reputation in the martial arts community, but he was not at all a mischievous person who was behind the ages. Although he did save many people, as well as doing noble deeds and standing up for justice, but he killed quite a few people as well. Having gotten help from Meng Qingjie, Qingshui's situation should become much better. The next day, Yan Qingshui's possessions. Yan Qingshui explained that just now, Big Brother had sent people to visit them. He wants them to report to the Cloud Arena at noon and prepare for battle. The battles will be over the choice of trade routes. He thinks that Yan Zhongheng and the others probably don't know that he invited the head of the Tang Palace and the others to join them yesterday. Otherwise, they would never have decided to call them to fight in the Cloud Arena and put their trade routes on the line. Without a doubt, Mr. Meng possesses great strength and outstanding eloquence. As long as a man is by her lady's side, there is nothing to worry about. The lad inquired of the mistress as to which trade route they should take. Now, of the 13 trade routes, 6 lead towards the Central Plains. 4 lead westward to Hunan Province, 1 leads southward to Hunan Province. The last 2 lead towards the 36 foreigner states in the west of their country. However, they only have 1 trade route at their disposal right now, and the other main candidates have many more because the other sons and daughters have turned to their patronage. It seems that if they expect to make a profit per trade that exceeds that of their opponents, they should focus on commodities. Liang Bo asked Mr. Meng what he meant. The guy explained that monopoly commerce is where you can make the most money. It turns out he suggests stocking up on goods and raising the price on them. But how are they going to achieve that? If they decide to create a monopoly, it will affect the interests of the powerful people of these lands, and they obviously won't accept that. But that's nothing. If Madam trusts him, that is to take the trade route towards Xiangnan, to Changning County. The man guarantees she won't regret it. Cloud Arena. Yan Zicheng called Qing Shui an arrogant woman who thought too much of herself since she decided to make them wait. Yan Qingheng explained that the 13th brother was now talking about his older sister. How dare he even dare to call her that? But Nine's brother should stop playing the goody-goody. He's the one who told everyone in the past that she wasn't their father's real daughter. These two brothers are also both good. One is a hypocrite who pretends to be a champion of justice in order to win the love of the crowd. The other is a young boy who knows that because of his age he can rely on his father's love, which the older brothers cannot get. The first brother shut them up, for the little sister and her entourage were already here. But they haven't already let us see this trio here. The second brother noticed that this little sister knew how to surprise everyone. But he wondered why the girl had decided to gather these people. Hong Letao realized that he was right when he refused to join a caustic type like second brother. He fights for whomever he wishes. Does he really have some problem with that? Another warrior called him insolent. It was Wang Tongzhen of the Zoroastrian sect. If he's got a skinny cat, they should fight in the cloud arena. He'll beat him so bad his own mother won't recognize him. He really was so ready to fight this insolent type in the arena that he even started to pull out his sword. But he was stopped by Yan Zhongheng. Second brother admitted that he had underestimated Yan Qing-sui. Ni Fan asked if they were going to fight or not. He has a lot of work waiting for him at the forge, so he doesn't feel like wasting time on this rant. Since they're fighting to 2 victories, he decided to go first. The 13th son sent Lao Gu. Lao Gu obeyed his master's order, and so they were already in the arena. The man hopes that the esteemed Nei Fan will show him leniency, but the man also knows about his adversity. However, when this fight is over, Lao Gu will have to pay another visit to his forge. The man decided to start first. He responded with a fist to this sword attack, after which, Nei Fan launched his attack, but Lao Gu dodged. He managed to turn around in flight in time to launch an attack at him from his blind spot. But it was too slow for Nei Fan. He had time to react and stop the blade. He used a technique that started to melt his sword. In the end, everything happened just as Nei Fan had said. Lao Gu should definitely go to the forge. The men used the melting hand technique, after which he struck his opponent with this technique unhindered. The man was thrown back against the wall. Lao Gu admitted his defeat. The 13th brother shouted that his subordinate was a common scum who was incapable of doing anything. The man noticed that the quality of Lao Gu's weapons was much lower than his blades. If he came to his forge, he would get a 20% discount. I mean, they kind of fight until someone wins 2 fights out of 3. So the man called out his next opponent. The first brother and the second brother only glanced at each other. The unidentified man was surprised that they were spooked by some lone cultivator, and so he jumped into the arena. As it turns out, this man's name is Mo Chen Tao. If they can't choose who goes next, he will just do it himself. Ni Fan assumed that this person was from the Mo clan of the Conlin Valley. His hunch was correct. It was the same people who killed White Monkey swordsman Gongyang Liu 6 months ago. Mo Chen Tao asked if the man was talking about the goon who tried in vain to poach in the Conlin Valley. It's not like anyone regretted his death. What kind of poaching is he talking about? To catch the 7-colored deer, his friend Gongyang Liu had been in the forests of Xiangnan for 3 whole months. The man would have understood if they had just taken him for his prey, but why kill it in the first place? He walked down to the arena. Hong Letao said he'll go this time. He'll finally get revenge for his brother today. Ling Bo turned to the young mistress to say that Hong Letao was a bit out of sorts right now. What would they do if he did something wrong? Qing Shui explained that Honorable Hong had chosen her, which meant that he was now her man. No matter what happens, they will get through this together. The boy took stock of the fact that this girl was starting to look a little like a leader already. But the young mistresses have nothing to worry about. Even if they decide to fight to the death, it doesn't cause any serious difficulty. For the other candidates, Miss Yan's faction is insignificant. Furthermore, they won't want to waste time and delay the trade. After all, the day of choosing an heir is just around the corner. The old man only remained silent, but something about those words made him suspicious. Mo Chen Tao replied that since he was in such a hurry to die, let him attack. Hong Letao will kill this little lowlife today. He sent an attack at him. Others, however, saw that he realized the blade's aspiration. Mo Chen Tao underestimated him. A man used the boundless sea, the surging wave technique. The urge of the sword and this technique collided, and then Hong Letao appeared in front of him, who was so intent on killing him. His attack caught up with his opponent. Hong Letao began to approach the trembling Mo Chen Tao. When that little lowlife goes to hell, let him apologize to his brother. The others, however, have grown impatient for him to kill Mo Chen Tao. This man is a man of the Mo clan from the Qianlin Valley. If something happens to him, he will not live. Meng Qingji did not tolerate outside interference. He dodged that attack. He didn't understand what the hell this damn finger technique was. The first brothers asked the man what it even meant. The man wondered if the rules had changed in the Cloud Arena. It was a one-on-one fight now, or did they want it to turn into a mass brawl? Others explained that Mo Chen-tao had been defeated, but Hong Le-tao was still aggressive and wanted to take his life. They only wanted to prevent such an evil act. Aren't they right? Their excuses are ridiculous. Whoever decided you can't kill in an arena fight? It's whoever has the most skill that wins. If he's afraid to die, let him go home and breastfeed instead of becoming a Jianghu man. If they dare to break the rules, there will be no mercy from him. Yan Jiheng asked, "Does this Meng Qingjie really think that he has no equal here?" He was not somewhere else, but in Shanshan. The young Yan generation didn't seem to put the rules that their father had set up into anything at all. The young lords don't seem to take it seriously at all. The 13th brother told him to shut his mouth. Yan Shuheng's first brother Yan Shuheng intervened in this conversation and asked him not to involve his father over such a trivial matter. They had won this time, so they should choose their own trade route. The girl reported that they were taking the trade route towards Xiangnan. Yan Shengheng as well as the others knew that out of the 13 possible trade routes, she had chosen far from the best. It was unclear what Yan Qingshui was ultimately trying to accomplish. In that case, the first brother will ask this little sister to order his subordinate to let Mo Chen-tao go. Here they were already returning from the Cloud Arena. Hong Le-tao apologized to Madame Yan for today. He couldn't help himself, but the girl asked him not to say that. The man came to her rescue, and for that she is very grateful to him. In the same way, if something happens to him, they will share the burden together. Although they were able to choose the right trade route, however, they only have 1 million liang of silver at their disposal. The old man fears that there may be difficulties with the plan to stockpile goods. Well, for the guy it is not a problem. After all, with him 1 million eilans will be more than enough. Yan residence. The man reported that Mo Chen-tao's life was no longer in danger. However, the blow he received was very ferocious. This blow had pierced through his sternum and severed all the meridians. Yan Shuheng wondered if they could be restored, and whether this man would still be of any use. The healer replied that it would be extremely difficult to completely heal the wound. Even if the man recovered, there was no way he would be able to develop the strength of an early sky warrior. If he can't develop early sky power, he'll be no better than some handicapper. Yan Chengheng watched them. The man feared that Mo Chengtao's situation would not please the Mo clan at all. The man replied that he would have to explain himself either way. If Mo Chengtao's life wasn't enough for them, he would add Meng Qingjie and Yan Qingshui to it. But the 9th brother thinks that this is somehow wrong. After all, the girl is their sister. Will the older brother dare to raise his hand against her? But no need to pretend to be humane and so fair in front of him now. The girl wasn't the same as she used to be. If it weren't for the support from the great groups, they wouldn't even be able to compete with her now. They each have several trade routes now. While she only has one trade route, there's no way to win. But it seems the 9th brother is too naive. Don't underestimate the 2nd brother and his methods. Does he seriously think that the heir who earns the most money will eventually become the head of the city? Now, as long as father is in good health, everyone has a chance to take over as the head of Shanshan. The 2nd brother, the 13th brother, and naturally Yan Qingshui. They're all going to go to Changnin County. There are many robbers and brigands along the way. He knows that his brother has acquaintances with strong men from the outlaw dens in those forests. Behind him will be the charges for these brigands. Let them wait until their opponents are on their way back to Shanshan, and then rob and kill them. Here they were on their way to Changnin County, Changning District, City Gate. A man trespassed on the property. As soon as he stepped on the ground, a sword immediately flew at him. Another person asked who he was. Also, what he forgot at night in the Eagle faction's territory. Meng Qingjie noticed that Li Huai had already made quite a bit of progress in cultivation. The man immediately recognized the boss's voice. He took off his mask and replied that it was indeed him. The man was immediately excited when he saw his boss. He asked if everything was all right. Su Xin asked him to speak less loudly. He also told the man to call Huang, because he had an important matter to attend to. It was surprising that the people from the Qingcheng school were unable to capture him. Huang asked if he was ready to go back to Changning again already. Even though he had managed to deal with the people Qingcheng school had sent, however, his name was still on the blacklist. Therefore, he shouldn't show his face for at least another couple of months. But there was no need to worry. Su Xin has already joined the 6 ministries, and his new identity, Meng Qingjie from the human list, is also their handiwork. And tomorrow, He will arrive here as the escort of young Lady Yan's trade caravan from Shanshan. They must not reveal his identity in front of these people. Now he realized what the matter was. It was not without reason that after boss Taewu King left, he resigned as the senior warden of the 12th Eastern District. Huang was sure that his assignment had been successfully completed. The protagonist inquired about the current situation in Changning, and whether the Three Elites Guild had attracted any attention after he left. After that incident, the Divine Wind Guild's territories were divided between the Iron Sword Guild, the Three Elites Guild, and the Eagle faction. As for the Blood Mantle Guild, it was still the same. It didn't show any interest in this matter. Subsequently, Iron Sword Shield head He Tian formed an alliance with them as recognition for the boss saving his life. Because of this, and because of Li Huai's new cultivation successes, the Three Elites Guild didn't dare to do anything against them. But as far as the monopoly of goods is concerned, they have not come to an agreement on this issue. Looks like some scores will have to be settled after all. Late at night, the Guild of the Three Elites. The infiltrators put it down that Huang Bincheng of the Eagle faction was meeting with He Tian again this evening. It seems that the discussion was about commercial matters. It might even affect their interests. Meng Jiang replied that it didn't matter. He had already reached the early heaven threshold the other day. After he stabilized his cultivation level, then they would throw them out of Changning. It was what one would expect from the Hmong Guild leader. He said that and didn't even blink an eye. The others immediately tensed up and asked who it was. Had it been so long since they had seen each other that they had even forgotten about Su Xian's humble persona already. The Qingcheng Sword School had blacklisted his name. Now he was being hunted all over the world, and he dared to come back here. The man said that they can come to an agreement. Su Xian only has to say what he wants and he will get it. But they should know perfectly well what he wants them to do. Some sins could be heard from the building. The next day, Meng Qingji stretched. He was approached by a girl asking if it was time for them to look into finding people from whom they would purchase special goods from the southern countries. They've had 2 vacations already. But the man told her not to worry because he had already done everything, and they would be contacted soon. Meanwhile, Nei Fan and Hong Letao were talking about what happened yesterday. Namely, there was a clash between gangs from Chongning yesterday. More than 10,000 people had come forward there. Such a serious clash, and the local authorities did nothing. Tao Qian explained that there was nothing to be surprised about. This kind of minor skirmishes happen every day all over their country. If they don't make much noise, the imperial court won't lift a finger. A battle is a battle is a battle. Liang Bo only hopes that this incident will not affect their plans. Fang Hao said that the person outside, who identified himself as the deputy of the Eagle faction, was asking for a meeting. He was looking for Mr. Meng. They act very quickly. The old man asked why these people were looking for him. The boy explained that they were new people in Changning. Even if they sent all their people, it was unlikely that they would be able to procure the right amount of goods. So he decided to enlist the help of one of the factions to save money and time. He told Fang Hao to let this person pass. It was Huang Bingcheng, and he introduced himself to young Miss Yan and Mr. Meng. He said that he was the deputy head of the Eagle faction. He explained that Mr. Meng had already discussed the terms of the deal with him yesterday. All the details are here, but the old man asked if we shouldn't discuss prices first. Huan explained that there was no need to worry about that. All the prices are inside. He couldn't believe his eyes. Tao Qian asked Liang Bo if the prices were too high. They were, on the contrary, too low. Liang Bo explained that if the deal went through at these prices, the Eagle faction would earn nothing at all. But Huang reassured the elder master. In the early years when Mr. Meng traveled, the man had visited Changning County and managed to become their good friend. He also added that this is just a paltry revenue for 1 year. He asked that it be considered as a thank you to Mr. Meng for his kindness. Yan King Shui was very grateful to Mr. Huang. The girl also added that if he needed help from now on, just let him just say so, and she would return this debt to him. Huan replied that the young mistress was very kind. The man asked Mr. Meng when they should start loading the goods. Meng Qingji replied that it shouldn't be delayed. Therefore, he wanted them to start today. The forests of Sanan, Bandit Fort. Meanwhile, they were discussing the fact that they needed to kill the Yan family's man from Shanshan. The man with the eye patch asked Dao Batsu what his interest was in this. Dao Batsu replied that they were being offered such a large reward. They have been robbing merchant wagons through these forests for years, and they don't even always manage to take a profit. But the man explained that silver is one thing, but risking your life is quite another. The man tried to calm them down somehow, because this time they were not hired by just anyone, but Yan Huangqiu's 9th son, namely Yan Chengheng. It was all just an internal squabble of the city, and they would just help him out and make a good profit. But that's exactly why they're not at ease. They are all people who have to hide from the light of day. Once they kill these people, they will make scapegoats out of them, and death will be waiting for them. The Tao of Batsu called this man Gui Hu. He explained that he was not such an idiot. Naturally, he took measures in case some people decided to turn away. He had a letter in his hand that Yan Qingheng had used to contact him. If they really dare to try to kill the donkey when the grinding is finished, then this whole matter will come out. And everyone in Jiangnan province will know how virtuous Yan Qingheng really is. If they have no more objections, then let them go and prepare the men. After all, there's a man on the human roster on their opponent's side, 3 days later. The old man explained that bandits were rampaging through the forests of Xiangnan. He was afraid that it might not be so easy to go back. The boy asked if they had never encountered them before. He also asked how to deal with these bandits. They usually paid them a toll of 100 or 200,000 liang of silver. Besides, when they see the Shanshan banner, they are not attacked. However, this time they are transporting quite valuable goods, so things can't go so smoothly. Some people were already advancing among the trees. Meng Qingji sensed this and immediately told everyone to stop. He also asked these guests not to hide. People came out and said that this was exactly what they expected from Meng Qingjie on the human list. He really does have a keen perception. The gang leader was there, as well as the rest of his subordinates. Liangbo recognized that it was Dao Batsu and also inquired what he was doing here. The guy immediately looked back at the old man and asked who the man was. The old man explained that Dao Batsu is one of the strongest brigands. That's why he most often acts alone and very rarely together with a group. The brigand merely replied that a special situation required special treatment. He just couldn't help but take such a fat score and call a couple of people with him. Liangbo asked the brigand how much he wanted. Dao Batsu replied that he wanted 1 million liang. The brothers who came with him now come from 7 clans in total. He wants 1 million liang for each clan. This brigand clearly doesn't realize what he's talking about and the fact that their caravan is from Shanshan City. It was worth it for the old man to only mention the city, as the man had already immediately changed his mind. He offered to leave them this maiden and 7 million liang, and it was Yan Qingshui he was pointing to. The old man stated that this uncouth dog didn't even know who he was dealing with. But he was reassured by Meng Qingjie. He explained to the old man that these people had specifically come here just because of them. Even if the old man agreed to their terms, they still wouldn't let them go. The guy decided to find out who sent them. But this the man learns from the Lord of Hell, whom he will soon meet. He sent his men to attack them. The old man ordered the young mistress to be protected. Meanwhile, the men had already dealt with their attackers with ease. Now he headed toward the rest of the humans. Noticing the man and what he had done, Dao Batsu ordered his men to protect him. But no one could protect him from the one that was coming. Using his purple sword, Meng Qingjie dealt with the others. The dying rogue realized that he definitely couldn't be the disciple of the Wanderer of the Four Perfections. The fleeing brigand didn't understand who Meng Qingjie was and why he possessed such a sinister sword technique. But a man had already appeared in front of him, which was exactly what he expected from a bandit from the forests of Sannan. He recognized that this bandit was a good runner. Another brigand had gotten wind of the fact that he was not the personal disciple of the Wanderer of the Four Perfections. The man remarked that if he cared about his own life, it was better not to talk about Meng Qingjie. Now he wants to know who sent them. If the bandit tells him, he will let him go, but he replied that he couldn't do that. If he wants death so badly, a man can arrange it for him. The fellow put a sword to his throat. On pain of death, the brigand explained that they had been sent by the 9th son, Yan Qingheng. Now the man had told him what he was interested in, and now he wanted to get out of here. But of course, he can't do that. The brigand was holding his throat, from which blood was splashing, and wanted to say something to this murderer. But he didn't have time to do so, and fell to the ground dead. Meng Qingjie explained that he simply didn't believe that a person who could sell out even his employer would be able to keep his secret as well. Yan Qingshu approached him and inquired if Mr. Meng was all right. The man reassured the girl and replied that he was fine. She didn't need to worry about it. An old man had also arrived and was looking at the whole scene. The man explained that Yan Qingheng had sent them. The girl realized that she should have guessed it sooner. In the city of Shanshan, Yan Huangqiu had originally planned all of this to make them into people who could become suitable rulers of the city. Who would have thought that they would end up turning into animals who were willing to kill their loved ones for the sake of power? The subordinates asked the head of the city to calm down, whereupon the old man ordered everything out, for he wanted to be alone. He was beginning to realize that it seemed like only Qing Shui was capable of fulfilling his wish right now. Yet she lacks the talents of a warrior. If she wants to establish herself in a world that honors strength above all else, a man fears she lacks something. The old man is also bothered by this. Therefore, if it was possible to leave Meng Qingjie and Shanshan to help Qingshui, her weakness would be compensated for. However, convincing him to stay would not be so easy. If they want to convince this man to stay, bribery is by far the worst method to do so. A better method would be to be inbreeding, namely to ask him to marry Qingshui. That way, they would be bound to each other until the very end. He is unmarried and is a bachelor. There is no obstacle to this. 5 months later, Yan Qingshui's domain. The system congratulated him for obtaining the unique weapon of the 4 great villains of the crane in the clouds, namely the steel staff of the iron claw. The rating of this weapon is 4 stars. Next, he received a coin of the golden Taurus group. If the coin falls to the ground, the man's head will bow. This coin is a symbol of the great power of the golden Taurus group. The rating of this item is 3.5 stars. Now, he had also obtained a high-level Kwai strengthening pill. Looks like there will be a benefit to a high-level pill after all. A young lady came to see him and asked if Mr. Meng was still receiving guests. The boy explained that it had been 4 and a bit months since he had returned to Shanshan, so he wondered if something was wrong. Yan Qingsu asked if Mr. Meng had been successful. Meng Qingji replied that this time his seclusion had borne fruit. By a happy accident, he had managed to break through the spiritual orifices of his eyes and ears. Others said that it was too frightening Mr. Meng's cultivation rate. The lad offered to discuss it later, after which he asked what had brought the young mistress here. Lingbo said that his eldest son's trade caravan had returned to the city yesterday. In addition, they brought more than 10,000 jin of dark iron of excellent quality on one wagon. He wondered how on earth they were able to bring in such a product. In the entire Zhou dynasty, the only place where such iron is mined is in the possession of one of the 5 great sword schools, namely the Mingjian House of Qingzhou Province. In addition, the sheer volume of production is very small. Control over the use of this material within the current is extremely strict. No one knows how the first son managed to get his hands on it, but the fact is that the eldest son is supported by the Mo clan of the Conlin Valley. The Mo clan's eldest daughter married a man from the Mingjian house, who holds the real power in the Mingjian house. Except that the old man doesn't know what they might have promised in exchange for such a favor. The guy asked how much 10,000 jin of dark iron could be sold for at market prices. The old man explained that it was for a huge sum, about 100,000 liang of gold, which, when translated, would be equal to 10 million liang of silver. And that was a modest estimate. Dark iron is an important material to create high-end weapons. If they had everything they needed, Nifan was afraid that this amount could more than triple. The man asked these 10,000 jin of dark iron in one piece or several. The old man replied that in one. He was not to be separated. It looks like Yan Shuheng has overreached this time. He won't sell his dark iron in this year. Hong Letao asked not to keep them in suspense. Let Mr. Meng explain what the matter is. Tao Ken knows that the main property of dark iron is its extraordinary hardness. However, it can only retain this property after primary processing. If it is transferred repeatedly, the hardness of this iron will be greatly reduced to the point where it reaches the level of ordinary copper concentrate. But the man didn't see what that had to do with whether he could sell it or not. Nei Fan explained that it was a solid piece of dark iron weighing 10,000 jin. Therefore, after smelting it, it would be impossible to split it into smaller pieces. If they dared to do so, the material could be safely sent to the landfill. If they decide to sell the piece in its entirety, who can lay out 10 million in silver or goods worth the same amount in the same breath? They've lived in this town for years, but they've never been rich, and the ones who could at least afford a couple million were a handful, and yet they bought it. What if the groups behind them bought it themselves? If they decide to do so, Qingshui's father won't let it go. This is the end of this discussion. There was no way they could blab about it and let Yan Shuheng and the others know about it. Yan Chengheng stood with his horse and watched the wagon. He wondered what the other brother had decided to bring this time. Since ninth brother is so curious, Yan Zhongheng will let him take a look at it, whereupon he ordered it to be opened. As it turned out, there were a lot of bags. These were the usual food and forage. Since the ninth brother had already quenched his curiosity, it was time for the second brother to go to his own place. Apparently, he traveled to the most prosperous place in the Central Plains, namely Jiangnan Province. But he only brought back provisions and forage that could be found anywhere. It seems that he really did decide to go in the very direction that Big Brother had foreseen. The subordinate finally saw the master returning. He reported that there was trouble. Dao Bazi and all his men had been killed by Yan Qingsui's squad. Yan Chengheng slapped him. Ninth brother asked if he was really an idiot for yelling like a crazy person here. They will talk about it when they get back. The man apologized to the gentleman and took hold of his cheek. He had underestimated this Meng Qingjie after all. However, the dead do not testify, so it is worth considering what measures Mei Qingjie will take. A few months later, Yan Shuheng's residence. He told all the documents, after which he called these people a gang of scum. It's top-notch material, and now it's over. The subordinate asked his master to calm down. He explained that they too did not know that dark iron could not be separated when smelting. At first, they managed to sell everything. But then all the buyers completely returned the goods they bought. This piece of dark iron could not be separated in any way. The first brother asked, what about the other candidates and how their merchandise sales were going? The man revealed that they had sold everything. The ninth son made the most, namely more than 7 million in income. The youngest son received more than 5 million. However, as for the second brother, he did not make any profit. The second brother miscalculated things well, but the first brother did the same. Yan Qingsu's domain. The subordinates carried the goods. The girl said that there were now less than 3 months left until the deadline for summarizing the results. She asked Mr. Meng if that would be enough time for them to sell all the goods. The man assured her that they would definitely make it in time. When the time came, the merchants would be begging them to sell the goods, and the goods could not be let out of their hands so easily. In the past, he didn't have enough strength, so it wasn't possible for him to achieve maximum profit through monopoly in Chengning County. But now he had the support of the Yan family. Even if they raised the prices of goods several times, the merchants would not dare to go against the city head and his status as the founder of the martial current. In half a month, their warehouses will be empty, and they will certainly come to this doorstep and beg them to concede their produce to the traders. If you play, you have to play big. And already there were merchants standing outside the girl's estate. So much time had already passed, and young Miss Yan still hadn't displayed her goods. The other merchant's store was out of stock. If this continues, it will be impossible to continue trading. And then the gates finally opened. Everyone was happy to see the young mistress. The merchants have already asked the young mistress to sell her special goods from the southern countries. They will agree on a price. Afterwards, they can organize a long-term cooperation. He is even willing to buy half of everything she has. As a token of goodwill, they also brought 3 first-grade fiery red horses from Western Liang for her. Let the young mistress say just a word, and these beauties will be hers. But these gentlemen need to be patient. This year, all the special goods from the southern countries are in this domain, so if they want them, it will be very simple. Whoever offers the highest price will get it. The starting prices are on these lists. They can take a look at them. The man has been trading in this country for 10+ years, but this is the first time he's seen prices so out of line. Though he has set the prices a bit higher, yet they still have the opportunity for huge profits. It's a pity that with such acting skills, they won't get a chance to do movies. Still, the man decided not to buy anything. No one will trade at a loss. If they won't buy anything, there's no point in them staying here. The man drove the people away, for they were interfering with their trade. The merchant stared dumbfounded at the man. Before he is going to make a scandal, let the merchant think hard about whether he has the stomach for it. The ninth brother was watching all of this. Although Ming Qingzhe's strength is not in question, he knows absolutely nothing about trade. He won't be able to sell his goods to anyone if he displeases these merchants. He ordered his subordinate to keep an eye on the situation here. If anything changed, he was to inform his master immediately. A little later, a subordinate came running to the ninth son and told him that bad things had happened. He reported that all the goods from the southern countries that young Miss Yan had purchased in 3 days were sold out. Are those merchants all idiots, who even agreed to buy goods for such high prices? On the first day, it was so. On the second day, the man did not lower his price, but on the contrary, he even raised it a little. On the third day, all the other merchants could not sit still either, and fearing to be left without goods, began to outbid each other's prices. Not even half a day later, all the goods were sold out. Yan Chengheng inquired about the income she had received. The subordinate said a conservative estimate is 50 million liang and a bit. Another man has also arrived, bringing you a message from the head of the city. The counting of the results has been completed. Tomorrow, the head of the city ordered all sons and daughters to report to the main city area, where he would announce that young lady Yan Qingshui had won for the position of Shanshan's heir. The girl was happy for her mistress. She knew that Yan Qingshui would be able to do this. She turned to the man and said that she really didn't know how she should thank Meng Qingjie. But madam must not rush to gratitude. This case is not over yet, but tomorrow her father would declare her his own heir. The girl supposed that something unforeseen might happen. The man decided to tell her a story after which she would immediately understand everything. Before the Great Zhou dynasty, 800 years ago, the Middle Kingdom was dominated by the Eastern Jin dynasty. But 700 years ago, after the end of the reign of Hui Wendi, none of the subsequent emperors was a legitimate heir to the throne. Each time the change of imperial power was accompanied by massacres. If even the heirs to the throne can be overthrown, is it nonetheless true of the heir to the city? If she becomes the head of the city, the older brothers will not accept it. The girl asked then what they should do. Meng Qingjie explained that, at least for now, their position and status was legitimate and uncontested. And as long as the man is here, he will not allow any of them to harm young Miss Yan. The girl became embarrassed and replied that she knew it perfectly well. Yan Shuheng's residence. The rest of the brothers began to negotiate. Was it really okay with the elder brother that the position of heir would go to some bastard girl? But it was the father who set the rules of the game, and they ended up being weaker. So there is no point in discussing it now. However, the second brother did not seem to show any interest in this trade race. That's not like him at all. It was probably the first brother who thwarted all of the second brother's plans. And now he's mocking him. The second brother is not at all like the first, and did not engage in these shameful machinations. He knew in advance that there would be a war. He also didn't understand why the first brother had such a need for deceit and hypocrisy. He had already sent a message to the current. Once Yan Qingxue took the place of honor, they would immediately destroy her. The other brother is gone. They just wanted to know the other brother's position. Naturally, they will. There's a lot of people gathered. It is said that the head of the city is going to make some important announcement. A man suggested that he would probably announce his heir. Meng Qingjie stood behind the golden throne. No wonder the imperial court wanted to oversee the choice of an heir. This Panlun throne alone, where only members of the imperial family can sit, is reason enough. Even though the city leader considers it beneath his dignity to collude with the martial communities, but the imperial court doesn't care for him either. It's time to welcome the head of the city. Everyone started bowing then when the head of the city came out. The man explained that Changshan was built by his own hands, and in the entire Xiangnan province, this city represented the stronghold of absolute justice. It doesn't matter if a cultivator is a lone cultivator or a disciple of the current. Everyone is treated equally. He had established this city over 30 years ago, and he was now old. After going through the same fair competition, his daughter, Yan Qingxue, achieved the position of the heir to the position of the head of the city. He announced that after his death, Yan Qingxue would become the full ruler of Shanshan. The people were displeased, for they thought that the head of the city would choose one of the 4 sons. Young Madame Yan is only a woman. They doubted that she could handle such a demanding task. 3 days later, several riders came to town. One of them is called Mo Tianlin from the Qianlin Valley. While he had been shuttered for 5 years, his younger cousin had never been able to take over as the city's head. Well, that would have been the end of it, so now he wants Mo's family to work for him personally. What a piece of garbage. Yan Shuheng greeted Tianlang's cousin. The man didn't expect that it was his brother who would come this time. So many years had passed, and Yan Shuheng hadn't even advanced an iota. He couldn't even reach the early heaven level. But where would he get the innate talent like his cousin? Probably among the entire Xiangnan martial community of this generation. Big Brother is probably one of the most outstanding people. But then suddenly the man was struck. He held his eye and didn't realize who had committed such an impertinence. It was a saint from the Zoroastrian sect called Lan Yuid. This man can flatter Tianlan all he wants. It's not the business of a saint. However, in the Xiangnan martial community, he is not considered to be some outstanding talent at all. The man objected to the saint and said that even though Shuheng is trash, he is still his younger cousin. She goes too far by hitting him in front of Tianlan's face. So what if she just hit him? If he didn't like something, they could trade combat experience once. She can't wait to see what he's been able to accomplish in 5 years of bolt action. 2 other people arrived and saw that the place was lively today. However, they arrived a little early. It was Fang Chengyu, the representative of the 9 Colors Sword School, and also Lin Tao, who was from the Spiritual Blade Group. The man noticed that these 2 were concerned as well. Fang Chengyu swept up that the beauty of Saint Lan Yuid of the Zoroastrian sect was truly outstanding. The saint would not stand for it and ordered him to keep his vile thoughts to himself. Otherwise, she would tear his eyes out. He immediately jumped back to get hit by her. Fang Chengyu noticed that the rumors really weren't lying. She really is evil. Yan Shuheng's residence, Tianlin explained that if he seized the initiative and became the head of the city, all Mo's family would have to do was help stabilize order within the city. When the time comes, he will, of course, sit quietly on the throne of the head of the city. However, they had spent so much effort and energy to bring down the dark iron at the Mingjian house. And in the end, it failed. The first brother admitted his mistake. Right now, Yan Qingshui is untouchable. The only way to weaken her is to get to her entourage. The man explained that the girl's subordinate is Meng Qingjie. He is a person from the human list. If you destroy this man, apparently he'll also manage to get on the human list. Baihua Palace. Fang Chengyu was surrounded by 2 women. He offered the girl to have a drink with him too, while the second girl wanted to feed him. Yan Zicheng was not happy about this situation. The man saw the look on his face and realized that he was dissatisfied with something. Did this kid really think that this gentleman could only eat, drink, and have fun instead of helping him win the position of the head of the city? But Brother Tutor, just something on his mind. Ji Hung can't think about it, but the man asked if he wasn't curious as to why the group had sent a negligent lecher and troublemaker like him. But all because of the fact that out of the 1,000 disciples of the 9-color sword school, only he had managed to pierce through the 4 spiritual eye and ear openings before reaching the age of 35. The boy asked his mentor brother when the time would come if they would directly strike Meng Qingjie and that woman. But apparently this little guy is an idiot. This woman is the heiress appointed by the mayor. Sending a man to deal with her is no better than sending himself to his grave. The boy inquired then what they should do. Of course, the first thing to do is to suppress the power of her entourage, and when the time comes, she will take over as the head of the city. She won't have the power to rule Shanshan. Similarly, all the other groups think the same, so during this battle, they will need to find the decisive moment, and then they will win. The guy didn't understand what decisive moment he was talking about. The man was actually talking about acting as a matchmaker to the head of the city and marrying Yan Qingshui. Yan Jiheng couldn't believe that he wanted to marry Yan Qingshui, but Fang Chengyu said, "Don't shout," and finish listening to his plan completely. If they succeeded, his 9-color school would be able to directly take control of Shanshan City legally. The rest of the people would have nothing to oppose them. But the 13th son did not understand what then remained for him, and how he could then get the post of the head of the city. The man explained that his mother is a person from the school of 9 colors. They would not dare to act to his detriment. After the 9 colors sword school takes over Shanshan, they will need a real ruler to stand behind Yan Qingshui's puppet, and no one better suited for that would be Yan Jingheng. The guy is going to get what he wanted, and no one is going to take it away from him. The next day, Yan Qingshui's domain. A subordinate arrived and explained that there was trouble. He said that the person who came with the 9th son, Yan Chengheng, was going to make his way here. Obviously, Yan Huangju can't help but know that the current's representatives came to the city yesterday. And now, after declaring Yan Qingshui as the heiress, he had decided to do nothing. It was interesting to see what he was ultimately planning. The girl pulled him out of his thoughts. The man decided to talk to them first. Ling Tao stated that young Miss Yan couldn't help but know about the hatred between the Spirit Blade group and Tao Qian. If she handed this man over to them, he would forget the fact that the girl had taken him under her wing. Tao Qian wondered if Lin Tao was taking on too much. The man only happened to stumble upon the son of an elder of this group, and they took and brought ruin and destruction to his family. They are worse than animals if they use such methods. The man noticed that young Miss Yan was silent and wondered if that meant she was refusing. Tao Qian replied that whoever did it is responsible. He couldn't let Madame Yan and the others be dragged into this. But Meng Qingjie stopped him. Did the man still not understand? Even if Tao Qian wasn't here, they would find any other excuse to attack. In the mind of the Tao Palace, one must believe that there is still justice left in this world after all. Some people think they can do whatever they want in Shanshan, but don't they overestimate their powers? Is he really going to risk his head for this scum? Since Meng Qingjie knows why Ling Tao is here, then they had better fight, if he has the courage to do so. The guy wondered what would happen if he won. Lin Tao replied that if he won, the Spiritual Blade Group would immediately leave Shangshan, and if he loses, the situation is a little different. Lin Tao attacked him. Instead, the human roster will once again be his. Meng Qingjie stopped this strike. The man explained that the human roster does not enroll anyone who wants it. Since he himself is there, he has the necessary talents and abilities to do so. The 9th son suggested that this Lin Tao was too arrogant. They have enough people to just go all out. But for some reason, he decided to fight one-on-one. It would be great if he won. But if Lin Tao lost, he would have to come back here again to pin Yan Qingshui against the wall. But that opportunity might not be available anymore. If this man was the first of Lin Changyi's human fool list, naturally, he wouldn't even think of bothering him. But unfortunately for Meng Qingjie, he doesn't possess that much strength. He used the technique of 1,000 changing possibilities, the correspondence of yin and yang, 1,000 changing possibilities. This technique is quite interesting, but the great truth is extremely simple. All the endless changes, he will cut through with his sword. He raised his sword. There was a small explosion, after which the man engaged the rolling of thunder, awakening. This attack struck Lin Tao's shoulder. The others began to worry about their mentor. A man shouted that this Meng Qingjie was now a dead man. The ninth son told them to stop. Looks like one-on-one combat isn't enough for them, and now they want to go mob on mob. 3 other people joined them. The girl said that the 9 palace 1,000 blade formation of the spiritual blade group was quite famous. She asked if they could demonstrate it. Now the others are here too. The man assumed that the lords had also come to measure their strength. Feng Chengyu began to reveal that Meng Qingjie was a human-listed person, and only a year ago he was only at the Qi-Hai boundary of early heaven. And today, he had already displayed strength at the clear spirit boundary, with at least 4 spirit openings. But he didn't come here today to cause trouble. He came here to be a matchmaker. He sincerely wants young Miss Yan to marry him and become his wife for life. There was a reason why this beast looked so calm. Yan Qingshui had been his target from the beginning. It's really the best course of action, but only a scumbag like that would have thought of it. The girl apologized, but a big deal like marriage happens with parental consent and the matchmaker's agreement. Without her father's consent, she cannot accept his proposal. It turns out that if the head of the city agrees, she will indeed marry him. But even so, the girl answered that she didn't. Young Miss Yan should know that right now, no one can vouch for the safety of her position. But if she marries a man, with the support of the 9 Colors Sword School, she will have the opportunity to take and hold the position of the city's head. Meng Qingjie intervened in their conversation, asking the brother from the 9-Colored Sword School where the confidence in his words came from. Feng Chengyu replied that he was currently talking to young Miss Yan, and no one had asked him to interfere in this conversation. The man explained that he was representing the interests of young Miss Yan, and was going to protect her position as the head of the city. And if he continued his nonsense, let him not be surprised if the man broke his limbs for daring to ask to marry a man he could never be worthy of in his entire life. Saint liked the man. Feng Chengyu couldn't take it anymore and decided to attack. Meng Qingjie also answered him with his own punches. It was very powerful for him, after which he used the awakening. He somehow managed to block that punch. He turned to the others and asked why they were still standing. These people need to remember why they are here. If he fell, they would be in trouble too. Tianlan thought that Feng Chengyu could handle it without them. Even though the saint admires Meng Qingjie, a task is a task. Therefore, he should not expect any leniency from her. She used the fire dragon technique, the flame of death. After which, Mo Tianlan used the boundless sea wave technique, the palm of the wave. Feng Chengyu shouted that this abnormal woman should control her attacks. There was a shield around the man. Those bugs just roll around under her feet. After which, the saint used the fire dragon technique again, tongues of flame. These sprawling attacks were directed towards Meng Qingjie, the fingers of spiritual chaos, the finger of great heat. He sent his attack with 2 fingers. This attack stripped the saint of a few hairs. Feng Chengyu noticed that he had opened up. Meng Qingjie is already fed up with him. The sword's desire for devastation. When the sword comes out of its sheath, all things are extinguished. The man was attacked from all sides, but they certainly didn't expect this outcome. There was a massive explosion. The man watched the aftermath from his attack. Feng Chengyu shouted, was Meng Qingjie really going to kill him? But he just wants to tell him something. As long as the man is here, no one will touch Miss Yang. He then used his attacks to impale the man's hands. For daring him today and destroying his meridians, one day his group would surely settle accounts with him. Judging from his condition, his opponents were outstanding disciples of great groups. In this battle, he barely managed to emerge victorious. Saint explained that he was really justifying his position on the human roster. After all, with Mr. Meng around, they really don't have anything to worry about. Even with such a beautiful woman, he was able to handle it. Mr. Meng really has a tough spirit. Hong Litao asked the boy why. In his opinion, at about the same age, Mr. Meng was listed as a human while he was merely a servant. The man explained that it was all because Mr. Meng has talents from heaven and was trained by a famous master. Naturally, he is stronger than him. Shaolin monks are so strong because they have abandoned all worldly things and focused only on self-cultivation. Is the man suggesting that he should leave the world now and become a monk? Besides, it's not even certain that he'll be accepted. But if it doesn't work out for him to become a monk, he can weigh the pros and cons and become an imperial official. They hurt the mentor's brother, and now they dare to make jokes. They seem to have no respect at all. Hong Latao said to go back to his sect, and called them a gang of hypocritical lowlifes. Otherwise, he would help them do it himself. After that, even Meng Qingjie was told to take his men to immediately get out of sight while they still could. Lan Weid replied that she had memorized the man. When her wounds healed, she would come again and look for him. After which she told the others to leave. The second man said it was time for them to leave as well. The man behind them reminded them to remember to pick up their mentor. Hong Latao recognized that women could not be held back. For such they were already creatures. He could defeat her, and she would never forget him. The kid reminded his brother that they had 2 other girls here after all. Before he knew it, Yan Qingshui and her subordinate were already looking at him. The man explained that everything he had said was only about that saint. He didn't mean those girls in particular. The man told them to call it a day, for it was time for them to go back. The girl explained that Mr. Meng had seriously injured a prominent member of the 4 great groups. She is afraid that this matter will not be settled so easily. Now they obviously won't be able to make peace, but he doesn't think they'll be back. All they have to do now is go back to their place and wait for the play to continue. Yan Qingsu wondered if this was really a performance. The man confirmed her words. Every great group tends to favor its disciples. Naturally, the elders would come after the young ones. The young ones were unable to raise a storm in Shanshan. However, when the elders arrived, the city head would not be able to stand idly by. And so the woman was explaining to the head of the city that his daughter's subordinates had seriously injured a saint from the Zoroastrian sect, and he was still going to stop her. Yan Huangju explained that they were the ones who first came to Shangshan and made a commotion. They know his rules. As for his sons and daughters, he cannot restrict them much. But at the same time, he does not want her, who is his wife, and her people to interfere. The woman explained that the case should be entrusted to her sisters. If it was not possible to take action against his daughter, then let her entire entourage be held responsible. Did she really think that it would be tantamount to killing her? If the city head really eliminates Meng Qingjie and the others, then whose help will Qing Shui rely on when he is the city head? Husband and wife will one day be spouses for all of life. Is he really going to give them that kind of treatment for the sake of that bastard child? It turns out she still remembers that they are husband and wife. He'd treated her well all these years, but all she'd had on her mind was her group behind her. And now she suddenly remembered that they were spouses. The woman explained that the group had helped her reach great heights in cultivation. There is nothing wrong with her wanting to show reciprocal care. This time, the old man had already realized that there was no way to reason with her, and told her to leave. He also told her not to return to Shanshan again. The woman hopes that Yan Huangju will not regret the choice he made today. And now she's gone. Shanshan belongs to him and the Yan family. The old man wondered, so why does everyone need to pressure him? If anyone dares to show up again and beg for his city, he will personally kill him. Meanwhile, in the Zoroastrian sect, the man learned that the one who defeated the heir of the 4 groups was a disciple of the Wanderer of the 4 Perfections. He ordered a subordinate to contact the rest of the currents. They will go there and join forces. The man wants to see how Yan Huangju can protect this Meng Qingjie this time. Meanwhile, Yan Qingsui's protectors were sitting around discussing the disciples of the great groups, who were total trash. Even if they were united, they had nothing to oppose Mr. Meng. Suddenly he saw the plate shake. The man didn't realize what this sudden sensation was. Meng Qingji had to use the dragon and elephant insight technique. He guessed they had arrived so quickly. Now, there were already some people standing in front of young Miss Yan's manor. The old man said that Meng Qingjie had severely injured a disciple of the Mo clan from the Conlin Valley, and didn't even admit his guilt. The guy came out to meet them. He explained that when warriors fight, their lives are always on the line. Obviously, his students were weaker, so it wasn't even his fault. Did this man think that since he was a disciple of the Wanderer of the 4 Perfections, he could do whatever he wanted in Xiangnan? If his master was here, even he wouldn't dare to attack the 4 clans so sneakily. But his master isn't here, so it's only natural that he would dare to say such a thing. If the man's master was here, this old man wouldn't even have a chance to make this kind of demagoguery. The old man wanted to object, but he was stopped by another man. He asked Brother Mo if he was going to continue to be insulted by this self-righteous youngster. He asked Brother Mo if it meant that he feared the Wanderer of the 4 Perfections so much. But this is all nonsense. Even if that old man kills that young man, and Zhang Haoyan wants to avenge his death and attack the Mo clan, these three will also be affected, and they won't be able to hide. The man began to assume that people from the Mo clan were becoming less and less bold with age. If the old man didn't do it, he would kill the insolent man himself. He attacked the man, but the guy stood there like nothing happened. It was like he wasn't even trying to defend himself. Apparently, he knew someone would come to the rescue after all. And finally, someone decided to show up. The newly arrived man called him Han Tinglin and said that he was not a 9-colored sword school here. He can't do whatever he wants. It was Yan Huangju, who had used the 9 changes Chang Lun fist, and the city leader had to protect this youngster. Not only did he cripple his outstanding disciple with exceptional talent, but he also seriously injured 3 disciples of the other groups. The head of the city explained that these disciples had come to the city on their own initiative and began to cause mayhem. He acted magnanimously in letting them leave after that. And now today they came and started talking about justice. It's ridiculous to listen to. Han Tinglin drew his sword and asked the city leader if he had even thought about the consequences of his decision. But the old man only laughed at these words, the right of consequence. He tore off his cloak. The old man decided to personally tell them of the consequences that awaited them. If they don't get out of the city, Yan Huangju will wipe them all out. That old man eventually went insane. There was an explosion. The man's hand in which he held the sword was shaking. After all, he realized that the cultivation level of the city head was not something that could be handled alone. That was why he suggested that they finally join forces. The others glanced among themselves, but still made a decision. Everyone started using a different technique. All 4 men attacked the head of the city. Yan Huanju used the roar of the 9 dragons, the Canlun fist of the 9 changes. Someone's blood has been spilled. Han Tinglin held his side, and saw that in his old age, he still possessed this kind of strength. Other people are also caught up in it. Since the life of the head of the city is already on the line, there is no point in risking his life any further. That's why they decided to leave. Yan Qingshu was immediately worried for her father, and also asked if he was all right and if he was injured. The old man replied that he was fine. He also added that the girl should prepare to accept the position of the head of Shanshan in 7 days. He also ordered Zizhong to send people to curb the first and second son. All the disciples of the great groups that are in their entourage must be destroyed. He took an order from the city manager. The old man turned to the guy who had been looking after his daughter all this time. As long as the man is here, the old man is sure that she has nothing to fear. Meng Qingjie asked the head of the city not to worry. He made a promise to young Miss Yan that he would definitely protect her and get her out of trouble. He told the girl to return her to arrange care for her father. It was clear that this battle had finally robbed him of his strength to the point where he had already started preparing for his funeral. However, after the Spirit Harmony School lost its mentor, would the rest of the group still feel fear? After all, he had left them ways to retreat. Everyone was talking about the fact that yesterday, the city head had fought the masters from the top of the 4 great groups. He inflicted heavy wounds on them and turned everyone into a fugitive. Moreover, after that event, he sent his best subordinate, Le Zizhong, to exterminate the remaining members of the groups under his son's command. The head of the city, Yan, also has 1 foot in the grave. The man is afraid that he doesn't have much time left. Meanwhile, another man was already watching them. He had also heard all these rumors. I wondered when such a person had arrived in Shanshan. He looks like he's smelling like copper, and he's dressed up in such a vulgar outfit. But he should keep his voice down. This man has been invited by Chief Yan to take over the supervision of Shanshan. This is Qian Daozhen, nicknamed Money Can Do Anything. He is a man with strength on the border of spirit harmony. Still, it's unclear why the city head invited a person with the power of spirit harmony. Do people with such strength not care about riches? But this man really doesn't know anything. This man is really here for the money. It's unclear what the city leader promised him. But he has already agreed to stand up for Shanshan for 100 years. So after young Miss Qingsui took the top position, the great groups wouldn't dare to cause trouble for her. Just because the city leader was able to invite such a person here. Meanwhile, the girl stood over her father. There were tears in her eyes. He has caused the girl and her mother so much trouble over the years. The old man hopes she doesn't hate him for it. He won't ask her to achieve greatness for the city. He is only asking her to protect this city. The girl explained that she had never felt hatred for her father. She took his hand. Also, the old man just needed to know if she liked Meng Qingjie. She should answer as is because it was very important. The girl replied that she really liked Mr. Meng. If that's the case, it's all right. He asked the girl to tell him to come here, for the old man had something to discuss with him. He was approached a short time later by the guy himself. He asked the same question he asked the girl. The old man asked if he liked Yan Qing. The man explained that the young mistress is a person of integrity as well as outstanding beauty. He does not think there is a man in this world who would not like such a girl, and this humble servant is no exception. The old man offered that he would allow the girl to marry him if the first child in the marriage would bear the surname of Yan, but the man stopped the head of the city and explained that he never said he wanted to marry young Miss Yan. Although the city was now under Qian Daozhen's protection, however, the girl was still inexperienced and did not have a firm hand. If the man could stay and help her, the old man would be much calmer. He apologized to the head of the city. Although he sympathizes with the young Miss Yan, he has only admiration for her and nothing more. His goal is to wander the world and meet people. He won't be able to live peacefully in this place. It was surprising that he was seriously going to refuse such an offer. Although Qing Shui would officially be the head of the city, but the real power would be in his hands if he decided to stay. The man explained again that his targets were elsewhere. The old man should not push him. Since that's the case, you can't blame him for it. He caught what the old man threw at him. It was some kind of parasite that had begun to infiltrate his arm. He didn't understand what the head of the city was allowing himself. The old man explained that it was a black parasite that Master Mao Jiang had created. This parasite fed on Qing Shui's hair, and once it got inside, the man would not be able to even think of leaving Qing Shui for the rest of his life. If he left her for more than 10 days or got together with another woman, the poison from the insect would take effect and devour him from the inside out. The man inquired if city manager Yan really thinks he knows everything about him. Doesn't the old man worry at all that he might have been sent here by another powerful group? Apparently, this old man hadn't even heard of techniques that could neutralize poisonous creatures. These are insects with so much power. The black parasite fell to the floor. And so let that insect go to waste. The old man didn't realize who he even was in the end. He apologized to the defense of Yan City and took out his badge. This time, he introduced himself by his real name, namely Su Xin. He was currently a Zhuifeng sentinel under the 6 ministries. The old man was furious that this man was a person of the imperial palace. He's gonna kill that damn liar. His heart couldn't take it. This old man had devised such a cunning plan, but miscalculated the most important thing. A former great master in the first generation, who was on the brink of death and met his end because he went on a rampage. That's a shame. In order for the girl to take over as head of the city, the man will take action against the rest of his descendants. Let the old man consider it a tribute to him. He reported that the head of Yan City was riding a crane to the west. This meant that he had passed away. The subordinates have heard the cry that this is just nonsense. It was unclear as to why father had chosen to choose this cheap Yan Qing Shui instead of them, and even after his death, he had spread an easy road in front of her. Meng Qingji had already managed to offend the forces behind them. The elders of the great groups would not let this go so easily. When they recover, they will come to Shanshan once again, and then they will have a chance again. But now the city is under Qian Daozhen's protection. The 13th son doubts that the group elders would agree to oppose such a man for their sake. But Qian Daozhen had only agreed to help Yan Qing Shui, and protecting Meng Qingjie was out of the question. It's ridiculous to even hear that he needs someone for his own protection. Meng Qingjie came to see them. Yan Shuheng asked why he was here. The man replied that he had come here to kill. Cheng Heng swept up that Yan Qing Shui couldn't order such a thing, but he would still dare to kill them. The girl was just a little too virtuous for such an act, but he, on the other hand, never liked leaving potential threats behind. The man began to sweat at such news, but Meng Qingjie didn't even let them get a word in, as he immediately struck a fatal blow. People were saying that last night, 12 children of the Yan City chief were found dead. Although even death could not atone for the atrocities committed by these people, using such methods was not at all like Yan Qing Shui. But Miss Yan isn't even capable of doing such a thing. And one shouldn't forget that she has Meng Qingjie under her command. The man's sick of living if he's talking nonsense like that. He shouldn't say such things without proof. The girl informed Yan Qing Shui that Mr. Meng had arrived. She greeted him. Since this matter in Shanshan is accomplished, he came to relieve himself of his duties. The girl remembered that her father had talked to a man that day. He must have mentioned the engagement. The girl wondered if he really couldn't stay. After all, he had never had feelings for her. This time, the man called her by name. Qing Shui must know that even without his master's painting, he originally had no intention of staying in Shanshan. Therefore, it is better for them to forget about each other. If they are meant to be together, their paths will cross again in the future. Then she wants to go with him too. Tears came to the girl's eyes. Guy asked me not to make a scene. She should think about Shanshan City and its people. They can't manage without her. If she gets into trouble, she should just open this pouch. Its contents will be able to help her. She held this gift bag in her hand and said she didn't want to part with it. Meng Qingjie replied that this was not where his ambition lay. Besides, if they were made for each other, they would meet again. She shouted his name one last time in his wake. He threw away his old clothes when he left town. The system was congratulating him for completing the main assignment, which was called Ungenerous and Windy. As a reward, he was given 500 antagonist points and 5 mid-level rotations. He certainly didn't want to stumble into a similarly feisty assignment again. His phoenix wing knives were flying again. He immediately took notice and shouted out who it was. He calmly deflected the attack flying at him. The guy took off his mask and immediately recognized Mr. T. This guy had once again lived up to his potential. In such a time, he was able to open the 4 spiritual openings of his ears and eyes. Susin replied that Honorable Te was praising him undeservedly. He then asked what Tewu King was doing here. Tewu King replied that he had been waiting for him, but he wondered why he had so quickly decided to leave Shanshan City and leave the woman's embrace. The boy asked not to joke around like that. If he stayed in the city, it would be possible to put a stop to his further development. He actually did quite well this time. He already has 1,500 points for his achievements. If the need arises, the guy should remember that he can always exchange them at the headquarters. He wondered if that was really all there was to it. Su Xin remembered that the Tian Chong pill that the Lord had so kindly given him before this task was worth 2,000 points. Under normal circumstances, he would have only received 1,000 points for this assignment. But since he had completed it with such brilliance, the internal department decided to make an exception and added another 500 points. In addition, he also received a promotion. Right now, he had already become the senior supervisor of Xiangnan province. Senior warden Xiangnan is not such a lowly position. But along with that, Tewu King had some not-so-good news for the guy. There was an incident with the Eagle faction that he had personally raised and developed. The 3 elites guild was destroyed, making the Eagle faction the strongest group in Changning County. Does this mean that some force from outside has turned against them? This force turned out to be the martial communities from the Central Plains. And in fact, it all had to do with his monopoly of special goods from the southern countries that he had arranged in Shanshan, as well as the exorbitant profit of 50 million liang he was able to make on them. It was unclear why such powerful groups were interested in such paltry profits. Naturally, such influential groups would not send their people to Xiangnan to care for the sake of such a minor benefit. In reality, the people who were overcome with envy and anger were prominent disciples of these groups who had left their currents to continue to perfect themselves. So, disciples from the Central Plains can do whatever they want in foreign territories. I wonder if the Xiangnan martial communities feel the same way. But it's quite simple. Xiangnan communities are weak, and oppressing the weak is the order of the day. They are unable to avoid it, so what else can they do? But the guy should not forget that he is a man of 6 ministries. If those students get too rowdy, the internal department will not sit idly by. Donglin County. The system congratulated him for receiving a disposable item. He received the Heavenly Cane. The character owner is Mi Kangqiong, rated 3.5 stars. This system never ceases to annoy him. The man drove his men up and said that if they were late, he would skin them. Su Xin apologized for disturbing him. The boy wondered if something had happened in Donglin County recently. He wondered why so many warriors had gathered here. The man would not answer him on that point and chased him out of the way. The protagonist reiterated that he would not ask the same question twice. He asked the gentleman not to be angry. The man explained that Di Yunfeng from Zhengjian City had invited outstanding talents from Xiangnan to join him here. At the moment, the representatives of the Year Cycle Group, the Shangguan clan from Zhongnan, and other famous talents from the human roster had arrived in Donglin. They are warriors from the Central Plains. Yet they are about to join them so quickly. Single cultivators like them have never once been able to come into contact with great groups in their entire lives. This is a unique opportunity for them. How else would people like them escape when the great groups from the Central Plains decide to do something against Xiangnan? He had heard everything he wanted to hear, so they could leave. They thanked the Han, after which they hurriedly left. Meanwhile, people were sitting around the table discussing how Brother Liu had already joined Mr. Di. He suggested that his brother recommend himself and the others. After all, they all come from the same martial arts palace. Brother L can't forget about his younger brothers after his promotion. Although these people are his friends, he cannot recommend them. Mr. D is the younger brother of the blue-eyed dragon Di Jingfei, who is the head of the Zhengjian Union. They realize that they are embarrassing their brother, so they can offer to take this yellow-level elixir that he received for his early years' service. Beside him, there are 2 more of the same. Then that's a whole other conversation. The man explained that Mr. Dai was not the only one who came to Xiangnan to compete for influence. He hopes that in the end, they will not become just cannon fodder. He asked Brother Fan if he had heard the expression, "Wealth and honor are achieved in risk." Did he really think he could gain something if he stayed with the master in the martial arts palace? Another man approached them and asked where Di Yunfei was now. The man turned around and asked who gave this insolent man the right to say Mr. Dai's name. Su Xin replied that he was the one asking. He repeated his question again about where Di Yunfei was now. The man replied that he didn't know that, and the protagonist stabbed him in the arm with his sword. The man asked the noble lord to spare him, after which he replied that Mr. Dai had gone to Nanning County to recruit people from the Chen clan. He then inquired about the other students from the Central Plains. The man replied that they too had left Donglin. They went in search of subordinates. He took his sword from the man's hand and asked if there were none of them left in Dunlin. Then surely he must know what happened to the Eagle faction from Changning County. It's a small faction that refused to join Mr. Dai's ranks. It is said that this faction controls the main supply channels of goods from the southern countries. They have now become the target of all-powerful forces. However, the head of that faction turned out to be quite stubborn and did not accept any offers to buy those channels. It turned out that the head of the Eagle faction had some power. Last time Mr. Dai had sent his subordinates, but even though they were representatives of great currents, they were all beaten. The guy wondered, and then what Di Yunfei was going to do. If the opposite party is unwilling to cooperate and share the profits, then he will personally destroy the Eagle faction. Then the protagonist should break the legs and arms of the man who told all this. He'll see how this Di Yunfei can attack his faction without his subordinates. Was it really the same person who had wiped out all of Mr. D's new subordinates during the night? The man replied that that was the way it was. He must not let appearances mislead him. He'll kill and not even bat an eye. The man interrogated the other man if he was sure. There were several clear spirit-level warriors among Mr. Dai's subordinates. Did he really think that this person could really be a human list person? The man confirmed these words. He had once killed the heir of the Qingcheng Sword School and was on the human and black lists along with it. This is the former head of the Eagle faction, Swift Sword Su Xin. If they hadn't mentioned it, he wouldn't have even remembered how awful his nickname was either. The subordinate announced that Mr. D had appeared. Di Yunfei asked who Su Xin was here. The man noticed that the gentleman looked rather furious, and so he suggested that he sit down and recover over a cup of wine. He guessed that this was Su Xin. The man wondered if he was too bold or just very stupid. Su Xin had dared to kill his subordinates, and still stayed and let his subordinates know about him. He seems to have had enough of life. Then he would ask something of the Lord as well. Where did he get the courage to annoy his Eagle faction? How dare that insolent man speak to Mr. D like that? Is it not that when the master speaks, the dog is also allowed to open his mouth? The man was angry about being called a dog. The man assumed that this person was Pan Fei Yun. In order to polemicize in front of Di Yunfei, he had left the people who had been his brothers for many years at his mercy. Was it too kind of him to call him a dog? He should be glad he wasn't in Dunlin yesterday. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to look at the sun again today. Di Yunfei stopped his subordinate. He realized that Su Xin's posturing was far ahead of his cultivation level. But the man is only stating facts. Does Mr. Dai think that if the Zhengjian alliance wasn't behind him, he would have been able to live to this day? It's funny to see these attempts when a man is trying to get him off balance. Too bad it's going to take more effort for him to do that. This alliance actually belongs to him. When his elder brother leaves his post, he will become the head of the Zhengjian Union. Although he enjoys the power of the alliance, but no matter how you look at it, he is only standing in the shadow of the brilliance of the blue-eyed dragon Di Jingfei. He is probably uncomfortable with such a thing. The man was starting to lose his temper even more. He shouted out what Su Xin was referring to. Even though he is ranked 57th on the human list, he is nevertheless the only one who doesn't even have his own nickname. The man asked if he was speaking correctly, and called him Di Jingfei's younger brother. If Su Xin wanted to anger him, he had successfully succeeded. If a man was in such a hurry to die, he would fulfill that wish. The others also drew their swords. It doesn't seem fair that all 3 men would gang up on one man. But even if he's alone, he'll fight to the end. Di Yunfei told everyone to step back. Su Xin praised his fortitude, which was expected from the blue-eyed dragon's younger brother. For a dead man, he talks a lot, but the protagonist didn't think of standing still either. It was surprising that he already had the power of a clear spirit. A year ago, he made it to the human list and was only half a step away from the early sky level. This type is progressing too fast. Di Yunfei used the dragon technique on the water. The two water dragons were aimed straight at Su Xin. It was the attack that broke through the wall. Still, he managed to provoke Di Yunfei. This is the unique King Lun power technique that belongs to Di Jingfei. Who would have thought that he would pass it on to his younger brother? Although in terms of strength, Mr. D is inferior to his older brother. Nevertheless, with such a technique, he has no rivals within his level. He told everyone to shut their mouths. Whoever dares to mention Big Brother again, he would personally shut that mouth forever. He started coughing up blood again, so he covered himself with his hand. No one would say a word if he didn't use his technique. But when he uses something that does not belong to him, it is inevitable that he will be judged by others. The man called him a sneaky bastard. Obviously, their master was furious at his attitude. But it's not his fault that this Mr. D is unable to stand it when others mention his brother. He shouted out that he would kill this Su Xin. He used the power of the Qing Lun. Dragon Strike. Su Xin summoned the spiritual sword. He immediately flew to his hand, after which, Su Xin used the purple rivers. This attack cut the water dragon, after which, the guy struck Di Yunfei. More enemies have appeared around the protagonist. They need to take care of Mr. Dai as soon as possible, and if he dies, they will be in trouble. The head of the Chen clan should know that, when the master is insulted, the vassal dies. The man wondered if he would be able to take responsibility when the Zhengjian Union called him to account if he continued to stand by and watch like this. He himself realizes what's at stake. That's why he should stop talking. Another man has arrived. How come it was impossible to defeat a single one, and now they are going to attack all of them? The boy recognized that voice immediately. This is Zhejian's Yuanyu 9 Calamities, which is 21st on the human list. People didn't understand how it got here. Di Yunfei asked the girl why she was here. She explained that Xiangnan did not belong to him or the Zhengjian Union. The girl came here looking for an old friend. Does he really want to prevent her from doing so? She greeted Su Xin and said that they hadn't seen each other for a long time. She also noticed that Shin'er missed him very much. So this Zijian and Su Xin know each other. The man ordered as they left. After they left, the guy turned to the girl and asked how Zinner was doing. She was glad he still remembered his little sister. The girl asked him not to worry. The baby is developing very fast, and all the people of her current are treating her warmly. There was nothing threatening her now. He apologized to Madame C for disturbing her. The guy also asked what brought her to Shangnan this time. She replied, clearly not these apprentices who were sent here by factions and guilds to gain experience. This was not the place to talk, so they should leave here. After the girl explained it to him, he realized that this Di Yunfei had decided to stretch his hands towards the Yijian school's vassal domain. However, the guy had already defeated him, and had also killed quite a few of his talented subordinates. Apparently this time her trip was in vain. Did she mean to say that since Di Yunfei had suffered defeats from him, he was now barred from continuing to fight for Xiangnan? Since he had fallen at his hand, it would be impossible for him to compete with the other groups. What's more important is that his position in the human roster will now also go to the protagonist. Honestly speaking, this whole fight is like children fighting in a sandbox. If he hadn't provoked Di Yunfei, there was no way he would have taken the matter personally. All the people who came here are all disciples of elite masters. This time, the goal of the major factions and the Xiangnan Guild is quite clear. All they need is to strengthen the skill of their people. But if during this fight, any of the current disciples from the Central Plains die, it will hit the currents themselves hard. But the Yue 9 Calamities Yue Nui from Yijian School had also arrived in Jiangnan. This is what's really strange. The newly arrived person recognized Brother Su, who was ranked 57th on the next humans list. This person's name was Xiao Muyun of the Year Cycle Group. The girl replied that he was a disciple of the inimitable Blade, Jin Kexin, who was the head of the Summer Altar of the Year Cycle Group. Wasn't he busy luring new powers to his side? The man explained that she was here without any hostile intentions. The girl knows, after all, that old geezers from school and current still place great importance on such a thing as a place on the human roster, although he had long since reached great completion at the clear spirit level. However, he hadn't achieved any meaningful martial merits at all recently. Therefore, his place on the list is rather low. The protagonist assumed that was why Brother Xiao decided to nail a weakling like him. And here was Su's brother laughing at him. The man only wanted to exchange experiences with him. It can be arranged. However, he must agree to one condition. And this brother's pretty funny. What will he do if the man refuses? Does Su Xin really think he can escape from him? The Yijian school is indebted to him for the one promising talent he sent to them that is very dear to him. If the man is so eager to fight with him, does he not wish to know how Madame Si views it first? Although the protagonist looks like a noble man, but when he takes matters seriously, he doesn't shy away from any methods. After all, Xiao Muyun agreed to this condition. If Su Xin won, he would abandon any attempts to go against the Eagle faction. Xiao Muyun admits that he does not wish to clash with the Yijian school, but Xiangnan is not Su Xin's domain. Even though the annual profits of tens of millions that the Eagle faction receives are not of great importance to his current. However, for the disciples who left their schools to gain experience, this is a rare opportunity. He wouldn't be able to willingly give up such an opportunity. Does he really want to become the second Di Yunfei? The guy admits that with his current strength, it would be quite difficult for him to kill Xiao Muyun. But what about his subordinates? If there's nothing left of his powers, there's no need to explain further what that will mean. Let him dare to do it. He should show less fervor. If he decided to corner Su Xin, he would see what would happen to the Shangguan family he brought with him. Di Yunfei lost, and in the coming Zhengjin Union, it will still go to him. But here, things are different with him. Among the 4 altars of the year cycle group, he is not the only much promising talent. Xiao Muyun recognized that he was right here. But even if he agreed to this condition, Yanqing of the Shangguan family would not leave the Eagle faction alone. That's not this guy's concern. When this Shangguan Yanqing shows up, he'll take care of it himself. It's just that kind of thing, then he won't cause further trouble. How strange that Brother Xiao isn't willing to exchange experiences. He advised him to save his strength against the Shangguan clan. If the opportunity presented itself in the future, Xiao Muyun would be completely at his disposal. The girl remarked that his talent for eloquence never ceased to amaze. The man explained that Xiao Muyun had made this play to get him to deal with Shangguan Yanqing. In the past, such forces would have made him fearful, but now he had the serious resources of 6 ministries at his disposal. When the time came, he would have to use them wisely and not waste them. As she understands it, things in Xiangnan are settled. The girl asked if he still planned to stay here. He replied that he didn't. In order to solve the issue of Shangguan Yanqing, who is ranked 55th from the human list, he needs to go to the Central Plains. Rumor has it that this Shangguan Yanqing is extremely cunning and has a cruel temper. He should be careful. He thanked Madame for the warning. He also asked her to continue to keep an eye on his little sister, Xiner. Shengjing City, 3 days later. As expected, the first 3 lines remained unchanged. Apparently, there is no one in this generation of the idiot list who can surpass Lin Changhe. It is said that the sword child, He Shu, realized the aspiration of the sword a year ago, and then challenged the fool, Li Changhe, but lost before he could even draw his sword. Fire Demon. Yan Naru had risen to the 4th place, contrary to expectations. However, this person is from the 36 Western alien states. He has not undergone a virtuous upbringing, and has become cruel and unfeeling, and his strength is drawn from heresy. The rest of the top 10. Feng Lingzi's Perfect Red Pine Tree, Chen Jing's Heavenly Sphere Sword, Yin Xixiong's Thousand-Faced Witch, Yan Dongchen's Keisha Spear, Yue Qingping's Resolute Palm, and Zhuge Qingtian's Calculating Genius held their positions firmly. And then, the man noticed that someone had suddenly jumped from the 100th place to the 54th position. This time, he had a new nickname, namely, the Purple Sword of Destruction Dragon Su Xin. His battle merits told him that 3 days ago, he had destroyed several warriors on the Clear Spirit boundary who were under Di Yunfei's command. After which, he himself opposed Di Yunfei himself. He forced his way through Di Yunfei's techniques and ultimately defeated him. Since he had defeated Di Yunfei, shouldn't he have taken his 57th ranking? How come he had risen another 3 ranks higher? Apparently, in assessing its power, the 6 ministries decided that its power was not limited to this place. There's nothing strange here.